Yes, Ms. Lambert, you're all good. Have a good meeting.
Okay, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Scituate Planning Board Thursday, March 23rd, 2023, being held in the Select Board hearing room here at Town Hall. The general public is welcome to attend via Zoom. It's on the computer, by phone, and it will be on public access tomorrow morning. To begin, we have a continued public hearing, site plan administrative review, and a special permit for a mixed-use building and stormwater permit in the Village Center Neighborhood District, Greenbush Gateway District, New Drift. Is anybody here?
Good evening, folks. For the record, I'm Attorney Steve Guard for the applicant. With me tonight is Greg Morris from Morris Engineering, Jamie Keller from Axiom Architects, and
Scott Thornton with
Scott
Vanessa Associates.
with Vanessa, traffic specialist. And so since we met last time, we had several meetings with the design review committee, and we've incorporated their comments even as late as the ones that just came in yesterday on their recommendations into the plans. What I think though, having spoken to Karen, would be that if we would defer to Patty on how she would like to approach tonight's meeting. We're happy to make a presentation, don't think it's really necessary, but I think probably most efficient to run through the sort of bullet point items that you folks would like to speak about tonight.
So just so that we know, we're here as a listening session, that we're not here for us, and we're not making any promises tonight. Hopefully we maybe can decide on the building itself. But we do have a list that we would like to present. Karen, you want to do that?
Yeah, why don't we start with the building? We know that the building has had some changes, so let's start with the building.
Jamie will address the architectural changes to the building since we've not left.
I have absolute latest set for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Just for the record, Mr. Boyce, who is not joining us tonight, Mr. McLean is a full voting member of the committee tonight. Thank you.
So, yeah, we had a positive process with the design review committee. Actually ended up with 3 separate hearings to address a couple areas of the building that they felt could use some improvement, aesthetically, mainly from the exterior. So just starting with the rendering, which is now reconfigured, to give you the view of sort of the main view coming down the driftway. One of the areas that we spent time to improve visually is this area where we have this kind of gable element of the cupola meeting the sort of pushed back 4th floor and how that all worked together. So previously, this was a little bit wider and it kind of ended and created sort of a gap between the 2 roof elements. And it was suggested that we actually carry this roof element all the way back to join in, which in the discussions kind of determined that from this side, which on this particular site, we have 2 step back considerations because we're on a corner. So we talked about at length this element here, which we sort of propose as a major design element of the building, and how that was one piece of the building that didn't quite meet that step back requirement, but they felt that it was sort of an appropriate part of the design and that it would be a lot more aesthetically pleasing if we joined the roof back, moved the cupola. And we also made some changes to the 4th floor roof here so that essentially from this ground level view, you really don't see much more than a roof surface between those 2 elements. And it just cleans it up visually and really helps to have that 4th floor roof almost blend in and disappear more than it did before. So
What's that vertical piece there?
which
Means it's right on the gable, looks like the gable sort of dies into it there.
right here,
Yeah, there's a brand, no, it's down a little bit. down the roof line, yeah, that,
right here.
no, the next, yeah, what's that?
What we're seeing is the fourth floor roof steps back. And that's, that's related to the step back requirement itself. So you're actually seeing railings that, allow us to have, the proper railing height for any of those roof deck amenity spaces that we have. So that's what those lines are representing. So other modifications that we made through the process, we did reduce the size of some of these little gable elements that locate entries on this porch element. We made some changes to these storefront windows. It was we had a bit of a discussion about signage and how that might happen, and thought it would be a good idea to change to a transom with divided lights and then a solid glass underneath, a little bit traditional style there. And so also the balcony was reduced in size, this one as well. So we just kind of worked with them to make some refinements. And you'll also see from the view coming from this old driftway, we were asked to try to sort of wrap this porch roof around that side of the building, and we have a view from that side as well that we can see. Because we decided that the view coming this way was also going to be something that was important. Another thing that's happened within the last week is that we're addressing an issue where we had an arcade that was pulled into the right of way, which has been a problem for the DPW. So we modified this porch roof element here, pushed those columns back, and just made generally some refinements in that so that none of the overhanging elements cross the line of that right of way. So that's something we addressed this week. And stairs leading up to these business doors along this road were also turned sideways, which also pulled the stairs out of the right of way. So that was also done since we met with the line review board. I'm just gonna skip to the other 3D views which are on A109, the 108.
Sorry, in the first floor level, is there an accessibility ramp or something there?
Accessibility to the building is provided at I'll show you on the plan actually. So two main egresses are required to be accessible. So we have an accessible entrance here, accessible entrance here. And one of the modifications that we made is that now at this sidewalk level, which is for commercial buildings and be even with the first floor level, it actually comes all the way around to this door here. So anywhere you'd have your ADA parking spaces, typically those are going to be located close to this main business entrance here. It's on this side of the building, but you would actually have access all the way around to this entrance as well. And
So that gives you access to the front porch.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So moving to 108, this top image shows some of the modifications that we made to sort of clean up this side, whereas realistically, this is the back of the building, but as was pointed out, there is a lot of visibility coming from this direction. And so we made the effort to clean it up aesthetically. We wrap this porch around where we have the rear egress, cleaned up some of the window placements so that it appeared to have, a nicer residential look to the building on that corner as well. This is just a view of the modifications that we made to push back these porch and balcony elements that were violating the right of way.
All of the vehicles are on the roof in this building.
So we have 8, right now, we're proposing 18 condenser units on our rooftop location, so that's sheet number A105. That would be here, and this is also a good time to point out that there's been a lot of discussion about this rooftop access. That was also something that was a bit of a sticking point for the design review committee. And with some different ideas that, you know, came out, we were able to push this back by changing the configuration, having an entrance to an accessible toilet that was actually a door to the exterior. And then we removed any of the overhanging roof structure that we were previously showing as kind of an outdoor covered area. So that's been minimized down to the bare minimum that we would need to have that rooftop access. But back to the mechanical, it's possible that more condensers could fit. It's hard to predict just based on size and spacing. This is just an estimation that we made. So 18, and then the updated elevations show potential wall-mounted locations that we would have on the rear. You know, we basically showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8 additional locations hidden as best as possible on the backside. And if we could fit more on the roof and still accommodate the length of the line sets, we would try to get as many as we could on the roof. So this is a good time to also show a modification we made to the 4th floor roof to try to soften the look of this corner in the rear. We brought the roof of this 4th level down pretty much as far as possible and kind of created this hip style roof with dormers rather than what we had before, which is had that eave line all the way up above these windows. So that was another. So like I said, there's been quite a bit of sculpting that's happened just to kind of soften the look of the building. And I think by the time we got to the end of it, design review committee felt like it, you know, had been a pretty positive process.
So what are those, so it looks like you're gonna have outdoor condenser units right mounted on the building wall.
Yep.
What do they face? Is this gonna impinge on something directly across?
Well, what we have right now is the building. So the side of that building, we're showing just that where it kind of pokes out in this view. Most of that part of that building appears to be circulation elements. That so you'd have, you know, a couple of those condensers essentially facing the side of that project. Doesn't have much that would really.
There's no residential in that side?
I haven't actually seen the floor plan. I know that there's at least 2 stair towers on that end of the building. I'm not sure how many windows are there, but that's what we're proposing. You know, it's possible to have condensers on the ground. And like I said, hopefully we can even fit another row on the roof. And another question came up about electric meter banks. Right now we have the electric service room on this corner of the rear side of the building. Right here, so this would be a door. So this would be a logical location for the electric meter banks to go. I think it's something that could be discussed, if that's
Are those covered or are those outdoor?
I think given the size that we have for the electrical room, I did put a note to say that these can be recessed into the wall. I think that's something that we could definitely make an effort to detail it so we have real dimensions and can figure out what the depth would have to be.
How about water meters?
Water heaters?
Meters.
Oh, meters. I don't know that we've put a lot of thought into that particularly, but that's certainly
They're
something.
usually inside in a meter room because you don't want your water meters to freeze, that's what they're doing at Drew. But gas meters are are an issue.
Okay, each apartment will have their own water meter at some point. It won't be all encompassed.
That's my understanding.
That's the comment from the water department.
Yes,
The gas meters, did you say this was gonna be serviced by gas? Gas meters, I mean, there's gotta be a location for gas
Where they
meters
go.
too, and they're big.
Yeah.
And they're all usually all together, and I don't know if you guys had a chance to review the memo from the design review committee. The design review committee, once they have locations of utilities, mechanical equipment, they want them to come back and discuss that with them.
Are the units sub-metered for gas?
The gas company won't even look at it till we have approved
Right.
project.
Are you
So
intending to sub-meter the units for gas
there would be gas meters, yes,
for every unit?
yes, yes. But unfortunately, at this point, it's out of our hands. They're the ones who choose where they go depending on where the gas line is.
So design review wants to see this again, because they think there's a lot of stuff going on outside of the wire events that go out here. Okay. And I think what
They'd like to see certain construction trim details, different things like that, so once we reach a certain level of construction drawing details, we would be back to discuss some of that, so.
Yeah, their letter states that they'd like to see it before the building permit is issued.
I go to those meetings too.
Yeah.
Remember.
Patty knows, but I was just pointing out to those that weren't at the meeting. They just wanna see it before the building permit.
It's a busy building.
I would say that it is.
And then we have the step back,
Uh-huh.
so I can go to that,
Do you wanna, so we think.
I think you need to go in this step back
Now.
before we have any more, I think that's an important part of the discussion, yes.
this is a memo that we put together just to explain the last two sheets in the set show for this building, like I said, we have two step back sections that we have from each road on the corner. The first one is sort of the main facade of the building, which faces the new driftway. And on this one, and if you remember, from last week, the way we chose to represent this was by creating this green zone that represents the step back and the sort of diagonal zone, and then the parts of the building that peek out from the green are the pieces of the building that were sort of popping up out through this diagonal. On this facade, we have very small tippy tops of these gable elements that sort of poked through there, and calculated that to be 0.4% of the total area of that facade of the building. On the old driftway side is where we had this design element here that was much more prominent. And as I mentioned, we discussed at length sort of the reasoning behind that, trying to really avoid a pyramid look to the building since it was on a corner. And where we have, you know, the idea of kind of stepping back this way, we provided this element to sort of cap off that as you see the building this way, essentially hiding some of the things that we have behind here and creating kind of a nice feature element for the building. And that was kind of our solution to what I referred to as the sort of pyramid effect when you have the step back on two corners of a lot. And so that element was the only piece that would be sort of popping through the step back zone, and that represented 7.4% of that total facade area.
So
And
I ask you, Mr. Keller, is this the rhythm of solids, the voids, the vertical modulation and articulation? I did really well in geometry, but not really well in algebra.
I categorized
That's what this sounds like to me.
the gable elements that we provided on the building, I do kind of categorize into that vertical articulation as part of the design guidelines. And so that's what that was our effort to provide some elements that break up the building from becoming too horizontal and having too much of a slid back, effect like that. So we were asking for this element to be kind of accepted as something that was a positive benefit to the look of the building.
Which was reviewed by the design review committee as well. Not in my letter, that particular waiver or relief is requested in the letter, such as Katie has articulated it, that we would be looking for a deviation from that part of the bylaw.
7:50:45. Steve, you have any questions? Start with you.
So I'll interject it.
Mr. McLean, anything from you?
No, I was gonna say, I think that, I don't know why, but just personally, this is the most pleasing, design, the pleasing look, whether something about like the way the eaves are constructed or the columns and the size of the dormers or gables, I think it looks good. I think it is busy, but I think that it's the right amount of busyness so that it doesn't look like a, kind of like a stone monolith, but it has some character to it and historical look to it that fits in with the community.
Ms. Willis.
I don't have any questions right this moment,
Comments?
and not any comment either.
Ms. Burbine.
I'm gonna hold off.
And all I'm gonna say is what I've said from day one. I like the building. I think it's an attractive building. I think the building was designed before the plot was fixed, but I still think it's a little too big. And that's where I stand on that.
And if I may, I also have the feeling that, and this building is lovely, but this building was designed and then it's been shoehorned into a piece of property. And for that reason, I feel very strongly, and I said this before, with all due respect, sir, it's too big for the lot on which it sits. And that's just how I feel. I also, since I've opened my mouth, I really don't like the fourth floor gizmo that you have sitting with the elevator and all the rest. I don't care how it looks. It looks like you've put a box on top of this. And there doesn't appear to be, if this were to fly, any way to store anything up there if you're encouraging people to take lawn chairs or what have you up there to enjoy the view, etc. There's no place to put them if a storm comes. They're not gonna lug them all down the elevator. It's not gonna happen. So again, I think I understand the building and I agree with Bob. It's very good looking, but again, it's too big for the lot on which it sits.
Can I ask another question? If we're done with that conversation, just on this, this view along New Driftway.
Yes.
Is there a reason you had to change the last balcony, more like a Juliet balcony? It feels like it's.
This
feels like
one
it's-
here?
No, on the one below,
Oh, I'm sorry, right here.
yeah, that one, yeah, as opposed to matching what it is.
Yeah, those, like, I call it like a French French balcony style, that was, again,
Yeah.
addressing the right of way, the sort of violation of the right of way that we had to address.
Well, maybe I missed that, so if it looked like the other two balconies, it was in the right of way?
Correct.
Well, the supporting structure below was been in the right of way, so we had to shorten the balconies a little bit in order to get that, the columns out of the right.
It's been
No, I see
indicated
that the other two look like sort of a little more regular balconies. This one looks like it all got punched in, even though column lines line up. So I'm just wondering why you
Yeah,
felt you needed
And
to do
step
that.
down, right?
yeah, the lot line, the right of way and the building facade are not parallel, they run away from each other.
Correct.
So that's why it encroached there, but not further down. So, right, Gene?
Yeah,
I think that's
that's correct.
So like, yeah, it looks like the column lines are all lined up, so
They are.
it's not encroaching in the right way, right?
I think what he was saying is that there is, the right of way line isn't necessarily parallel to the building. So there's a little skew that happens there.
Yeah, but you're not in the right of way anywhere there, right?
No, not as the design.
These are all lined up all the way along.
Correct.
Oh, so, I'm sorry.
Why doesn't that balcony come out like the other two?
So it's,
It is parallel.
the building facade right there, that gable on the end bumps out
Correct.
ever so slightly, bumps out
I-
approximately
yeah, I-
2 feet.
Yeah.
So that's why you see that. Originally, where that bump out is on that end gable, that's where we had the arcade and the balcony, which per your bylaw are allowed to extend into the right of way. DPW, however, has, opined that they don't want that. So we've had to pull that feature back. But that gable, as you see it there, does bump out itself. You are correct, the pilings underneath it, are all lined up, parallel with the right of way itself, outside of the right of way.
They're not parallel to the road layout, but they are parallel to the right of way. Yeah, that's it.
Why do you have to scale up?
It just seems like a weird concoction there.
I'm not sure I fully understand it.
Sheet 4 of the site layout plan kind of shows you the geometry of the right of way.
There, those are just the architectural, your site plan is in the other big packet of information.
So just
It's
go
that
like-
jog.
Steve, if you look at architectural page 102, you'll see there's a jog in this 2-bedroom unit for the living room area. I think maybe that's why you're looking, the balcony looks narrow, or less deep.
A102.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And it would have been,
I
the-
get you now, I'm sorry, it didn't look like that in the.
it would have been the same size when the columns were in the right of way. Then we moved the columns back,
Yeah,
like
you
the
bumped
short
out the
balcony.
whole
I should have
wall.
mentioned that.
The exterior wall. Okay. That's, yeah.
That was-
Now I get it. Thank you.
The alternative was to move that wall back, and then you get a straight flat wall with no interest to it, and then you're making the unit smaller. You don't give this little bump out for the living room area, for the bedroom.
Yeah.
We thought it would be better, a person occupying that would rather have a shorter, narrow balcony than a smaller one.
Yeah. Actually, it feels like the balconies serve as the bump out, right?
Yeah,
So that's what it feels like, and that feels
Sure.
like now you've got kind of this asymmetrical look on the balconies on that side.
I mean, I guess I could respond that was the intent, to provide 3 of the exact same sort of gable element in the same balconies was something that we thought was a little too repetitive. So as we're bringing a larger element to the end of the building, kind of make a little statement there. That was our idea.
I think the word repetitive is really telling here. Would have just been, boom, 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 like cookie cutter down the street. This gives more dimension and interest in the way it breaks up the facade. Despite the fact that it's a narrow balcony.
I'm gonna go back to Ann's comment. I like the roof as someone that has kids that live in New York City, having open space for them to go is great. Roof decks can be gorgeous. But I do understand Ann's What's, I mean, it's probably early, but what's the plan? Are you going to put things out there for people? Are they gonna haul up their?
I think that a lot of, cities that have rooftop access for residents provide sort of permanent, furniture items outdoor. I mean, that's something that hasn't been necessarily discussed in detail. That's what I assume would be the approach. And, I think, and I'm going back to when the penthouse was part of the zoning, now it's just a circulation, but I think the goal of that and the dimensional rules that surrounded that were intended to kind of create a situation where you couldn't see it from the ground. And I think that even looking at these views here, it's pretty successful in that sense, that keeping it low, pushing it in from the sides of the building creates a scenario where it's probably gonna be very difficult to see that little pavilion, little access pavilion up there from. It's very obvious when you look at a building elevation, but the building elevation is not a true, perspective view of. So as soon as you start seeing this building in these perspective views taken from more at ground level, you no longer really see this. And obviously from this backside, from that back building, you'll have some views of it. But from the street, the whole idea is to make it disappear. I think we've done that, so.
Yeah, I think you've done that. I guess living in Scituate, the wind, if there's a storm, can be brutal, so you may want to think about having a place to put things, because I don't know what the wind's like in this area, but
It's rough.
I've
Yeah.
had
Very rough.
some really big things slide around on my back there.
There is a
Not when I
storage
think about the
potential in the attic space of this element here. That would be something that could be accessed from those both rooftop amenity levels, so.
So
That's an undefined space at this point in time, it's kind of storage, so.
that staircase, which shows here.
Yep.
There's a door
That's the egress, yep, that goes right into the staircase,
down,
correct.
and how do you get to the attic?
Right now, I think I might be showing a door, fourth level. I don't know if I put it in, because we haven't really see, there's a one access to an attic here. I put a door in just as a suggestion. That space is undefined at this moment.
And there's no basement.
No, so that would be like if you live like in an apartment in the city, they give you like a little cage, like with your name or your number on it, and that would be when you would put your storage stuff.
You could put the cushions from the chairs up on the roof deck in there, so they don't go away.
Well, like, husband, we put our basements there, we have to put.
Again, I am concerned that if you put stuff out there, some places in Boston, whatever, have almost a wall, and this isn't a wall, it's fencing type of thing. That wind will take those cushions and they're gone.
We have a wall as well, I mean, it's pretty big.
Well, up and over.
I have a house that went to Portugal, so we all have that kind of stuff.
But something I think that needs to be considered, and I still dislike the design of it. Whatever, you have that piece on top of it that just doesn't quite make it. That's just my opinion.
It's not uncommon for elevator head houses to look like that. And, they're a box, that's what they're there for, they're to house the mechanicals for the elevator, the head height for the access staircase. And you can dress it up a lot, but and I think Gene has tried, there's not a lot you can do with it without making it, now it looks like a fourth story, like a fifth story, do you know what I mean with that? So generally speaking, the goal is to try to minimize its impact on the site, and in this location, we're building at this height, you're not gonna be too many angles from the street, you're gonna be able to see it anyway.
All right, then, if you go back to number, okay, 07. And if you look at the building, the rooftop, whatever, and you have this long blank wall next to the door.
Right here,
yes, I would suggest that you figure out a way to put some type of storage, lockers or whatever, so that all the cushions, whatever, can go right in there.
It's a good idea.
Do you think that there's, maybe that wall should also have some the last one I did with an elevator head house, the board that I was before, liked the idea of putting some windows in there,
You
natural
have one
light,
right here,
yeah.
elevators right there.
Yeah,
Right.
just
Oh, okay, so
That doesn't make
next
any
to
sense.
in the elevator lobby.
But it was more aesthetics from outside, so when you saw it, it looked like it was windows, and actually this one we
I
made
think
look
if
like
you
a
look
light.
at the billboard, it's like that.
Yeah,
I
just like
think it's more important to have lockers for storage.
Okay.
And what you could do, if you felt that you really needed the aesthetics, put a transom across the top of it.
Okay, we'll look at that, Jamie, you look at that, right? Sure. Yeah.
And is that what looks like a chimney that's coming out of the top of it? Is that part of the elevator
That's-
shaft?
Sort of required for, yeah, that's the elevator, typically you need 13 feet from floor level, so trying to keep it as it's on the back, we flip things around and try to be as unobtrusive as you can with it.
Because on the other side of that building, you have two windows
Right,
in the lobby area, stairwell.
right here, yeah.
And this is the back.
That's the
Yes,
back.
that's the back. But again, any storage that you can put up there would be.
Can you allow?
Well, I hope so.
Anything else?
There was a comment made that there were two entrances into this property. One of them is one way out.
Oh, correct.
We'll get to.
We'll get- That's
Yeah,
later.
let's do that.
Finish the building first.
Fine, we'll get to this, yes, but.
Steve, do you have any comments on the building? You think the building's fine, or, you know?
I mean, it's a good sized building on a piece of property. I think, if we go through the rest of the comments, I want to make sure there's still enough green space and, that kind of stuff. But, in general, I think it's okay.
Well,
Just to put a name on the I like the design elements, and what it reminds me of is, at least looking at old pictures of the Scituate Cliff Hotel. And that's why I was like, I like it, it reminds me of another building I saw in Scituate before, pictures of it. And that's what I liked about the, the busyness, that seems like it's just right.
that was
Professional, but.
that was 7 stories, I wasn't sure, it was 7 stories, and no elevator. A lot of dirty sheets up and down,
All right, so you're done with the building?
yeah,
All right, so moving on, the next topic would be density bonus.
yes. All yours, Chairman, what would you?
Okay, so on the density bonus, the first thing that I wanna mention is that my letter references, I'll start with the mistake first. 7 additional units or density bonus units, and it should be 9 or 10. I assume we're allowed 12.7 by right based on the area of the lot. Maximum would be 28.7, I think it was, maybe 28.4, it's irrelevant, so that end doesn't matter. And we're looking for 22, so the applicant is proposing, that we have 9, because there is a rounding sort of mechanism in there, but we would understand the alternate interpretation that it would be 10 affordable, 10 additional bonus density units. The applicant is offering $15,500 one-time payment per additional unit. Again, my letter says 7, but it really should say 9 or 10, depending on the board's interpretation of the rounding. And that payment would be paid before the issuance of an occupancy permit at the time. It's some mechanism, down the road when the builder is at the point where he wants to, sell them, or if it's gonna be an apartment complex, then before we get an occupancy permit.
Well, I would like to make a comment that it has to be before occupancy.
Excuse me.
And occupancy, it has to be done before the occupancy permit is issued.
Yeah, I think that would be the latest time that you'd want to pay.
I believe that on another project you conditioned prior to, at the time of the building permit.
That's it, that's what
Because
I'm, that's
we
what I'm
have a little
looking for.
problem sometimes with things getting signed off
Yeah.
without the planning board knowing.
That's what I was looking for, so it has to be at the same time as the building permit, please.
And I think that's fair. In fact, I think Karen and I talked about that. The logistics of trying to track that money after a building permit is issued is challenging for the town. So I can see that. So that was down. So anyway, I fixed that mistake. So please correct your letter that you have before you. The applicant proposed to grant the town an easement for the existing public sidewalk that's encroaching upon the property without any sort of eminent domain taking or any compensation for that easement. As we know, in this case, the sidewalk's on the applicant's property, which is another part of my letter. We talked about that. The applicant further proposes to extend the sidewalk to 250 feet along the new driftway side of the building. My reading, Greg's reading of the bylaw doesn't require a sidewalk installation, but oftentimes, large-scale developments offer that as an offer to put in sidewalks, a traffic signal or something like that, grocery stores.
Hold on, it is a pedestrian
It's a
frontage zone,
pedestrian frontage
so you need
zone.
to have a sidewalk. It's zoning, it's a pedestrian frontage zone, so you need to have a sidewalk there.
So
So
anyway,
where does it tie in at 250 feet? What's the termination point?
yeah, Greg,
So it would tie in at the corner of the Drew Company project. It does not tie into a sidewalk. There is no sidewalk proposed at that location.
It stops.
It just stops.
So does it go in front of the building that the Drew Company's building there?
I think Greg can show you. You have it on the site plan.
On the site plan here, there's existing sidewalk all along this that ends at this location currently. We would be extending that sidewalk along New Driftway here to a terminus point, at our lot line here. This is the Drew Company project here. There's no plans that I'm aware of for them to install a sidewalk.
Right, so where that is, that's where they're building that, is that standalone building.
Right, this is a parking lot and the standalone building is right about here. Yep.
I would recommend the board take this under advisement tonight. I'm trying to schedule a meeting with the TA and DPW, to talk about the easement and sidewalk.
And the last thing, just to note, as far as the density bonus units, I have made contact with Elisa from Metro West Collaborative Development. We'll be using them as well for the fair housing marketing, as well as conducting and monitoring the affordable units.
And will the affordable units be at 80% or 60%?
80%.
Which I
We've
think,
taken this up for advisement.
all right, take it under advisement, fine.
So if you were here for our last permit that we had, we discussed some AMIs at 60% as opposed to 80% to make affordable housing more affordable. It wasn't that we were requiring that, we were asking you to do that.
I am aware of that, Patty, and I did talk about that with the team, and we've decided that, we're not opposed to either one, but we've decided that we thought from a marketability standpoint down the road is that the payment was better than the revenue deduction for a 60 versus an 80%. So we thought it would be better to give the money to, the town for housing uses as opposed to a long-term sort of reduction in the rent over a period of time. That was the theory behind it. I don't think John has a strong feeling either way, but it was sort of my feeling that the one-time payment would get the money in the coffers, could be used for affordable housing or other amenities that the town saw fit, and that they'd still be getting affordable housing for 80% of the market rate.
I guess I'm not understanding what one-time payments you're talking about.
This is the $15,500 per density bonus unit.
All right, that's the density bonus, that's different from the affordable,
Correct,
right?
but that I was, right.
It doesn't include. Can I ask where that dollar amount came from?
John said that he had a discussion with, who was it, John, you talked to?
That was the amount that you said.
Yeah.
You would not take less
Less
than
than.
15,500, and that should be on record.
That's the number that I
On the
used.
very first meeting.
I don't remember that.
I don't know.
If you look back.
We'll go back, we'll go back, we'll go back in a meeting.
That was the number.
Again, that's the
We're gonna
applicant's
take
office.
that under advisement.
Yeah, it's our office, yeah, it's our office, so.
We have several numbers.
That is where that number came from, though, and you'll see it. It's on the
Okay.
record.
We'll go back.
We'll go back, listen, yeah, so we'll take that under advisement.
Yeah.
And you did speak to Metro West and they're all on board here.
Yeah, I spoke to her today, as a matter of fact, she's gonna send me the, the proposals for the different services that they offer.
So we know that, we have to have that on board before anything else starts, right?
Yeah.
One law has to be all squared away before we do anything, because we don't know what happens after that, if everything gets lost in the wash.
You bet, yeah.
So Karen, anything else on that that you'd like to talk about?
No, so there's going to be 5 affordable units.
There'll be 5 affordable units.
We haven't had any comments yet from DPW on the water and sewer studies that were submitted. No comments yet, but they were submitted. All right, I think, parking.
I read with great interest your issue about the dead end parking. I
Yeah.
cannot agree with that. If you can't get out, you can't get out.
So what?
Yeah, dead end parking, for the turnaround by the parking. I know that it's only for resident use only with approach, and I know people will not be looking, but parking is such an overriding concern. And if this dead end parking is a little hard for me to, Greg, do you have a picture of that, parking?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the theory was that with proper signage, that the only people that would be going into that area would have an assigned spot. So they wouldn't have to worry about people pulling in looking for a spot and then backing out when someone's trying to get into a spot and not sit.
It's tight.
Yeah, and I think when you have tighter parking spaces, they're more, it makes more sense to make them designated for people, so that there isn't just public traffic going back and forth. Greg, this was Greg's idea, I thought it was a really good idea in a way to solve that problem. I understand the concern, but I think with appropriate signage in numbered spaces allocated to the residential, I think that really, it mitigates the chance. Is someone gonna pull down there because they don't have a place to park and they think they're gonna illegally park? They could, sure.
Where is this?
Greg, can you two
So
opportunities?
the parking spaces are these ones along the building here and at this location here. So if you came in through the entrance, two-way traffic, you came around and you pulled in here and you were just randomly looking for one of these spots and they were all full, you'd get to the end here and you'd have to back out to here before you could leave the site. So we would have a sign that all of these parking spaces here would be dedicated, they would be numbered parking spaces for the tenants of the building only. So that, these spaces here, this double row of spaces here would be open for anyone just coming onto the site for general business purposes. But these ones here that have the dead end, if you will, you'd eliminate the general public going down there because they would be reserved, there'd be signage to that effect.
How many parking spaces are there?
In total on the site, there are 41, the zoning requirements 40
41 for this.
total on the site.
How many are in the dead end?
So,
How many are in the dead end?
Yeah, how many?
So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on that side, and you have 8 on this side, so 16.
So now you can address Ian's issue about one two-way and one one-way, right?
Not only that, that's part of it. The other issue is there is retail on the lower level of this building. And people, if you want people to come retail, they're not gonna want to park on the other side of the parking lot. Because everything in those 16 spaces are dedicated to the residents.
Is there retail access right there?
Yeah, really.
So
No,
there's,
retail is
no,
on the other
back of the
side,
building.
right?
there's access on the back of the building, there's primary entrance here. There's also an access point to this location.
Right.
So in the back though, on that first floor, is this residential or are those?
The back of this here, this is residential.
But again,
Why is this any different from Mill Walk? Well, the back.
It
Well,
seems
we're not
like-
dealing with Millwall today, we understand that, but we're just trying, when we redesign that, we'll figure that out, I'm sure. So, okay, so you win two ways there, and where's the one-way credit?
It
So
goes out.
I don't understand the concern about this. This is a two-way traffic in and out on this. And then we have one-way traffic here as an exit out to Old Driftway. It didn't make sense to have this as a two-way in
I
and out,
understand that, but don't say.
exit only.
don't say that we have two entrances, because that's what I read,
We have one entrance and two
Okay.
exits.
okay? And the other thing is, seriously, if you can somehow figure out the configuration of this parking, so that when you come down that row with your 8 spaces, you're almost better off to have some type of an opening that people can get across, that they're not trapped. I really,
Yeah.
I feel very strongly about that.
So Greg, if you go in that entrance, you go, you come down to the street, the other end, and you go to the left. And you do come down, so if they get down here, there's no way for them to get back
They're gonna
up.
have to back up.
You're gonna have to back
And
up.
that makes no sense at all, because if anybody's like me who can't back up, it's duck soup. No, it's not gonna work.
So Greg, if you went to the end of that, there's no way to make it a little.
Right at the end of this here.
There's no way to make it a little,
So I'd have to look at that. I mean, there's parking spaces. There are 3 parking spaces there, so you might be losing parking.
So can we look at that, we can take that out of the budget as well, just kind of look at it. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I think that, part of it is, if you live there, you kind of get used to it. I mean, that's part of it.
If you want to attract business,
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but there is no business at the back of the building.
Yeah, there's no
but there
retail.
is a main entrance to that whole area, right by those parking spaces.
So would you be
How
more
big is
comfortable
that?
if the handout was on the other side?
That little piece that you have up there that's probably gonna have grass or something in it, way up, that's an island of some
Yes, it is a
description.
landscape island.
Okay, maybe you'd be better served to relocate that landscape island further down so that there is a definite flow to the traffic.
But what I asked Julian is that we have an entrance and exit on the lower side, and then we have an exit. Would you feel better if they could flip that around?
No.
Okay,
We have a traffic expert here,
Yeah.
maybe he can add something.
traffic is just, the only thing I do well is say traffic, but it's, traffic doesn't bother me, but it bothers a lot of people when there's a lot of traffic down here. So, Rebecca, we really bother traffic with the parking?
Well, I guess my only concern is even if I like the residents only parking, I get that, except for even if the residents get all the way down thinking there's the last spot and it's some little car that they can't see, they still have to back out too.
But that's the
We all
side
do
part,
that.
right?
So what we were saying is these would be assigned spaces, space 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you have your
Oh, because
apartment,
it's yours,
You would
okay, never
have
mind, I
that's
gotcha.
exclusive use to
I got you,
the
never mind,
cars.
so you wouldn't,
You can't
sorry about
claim for
that.
that.
Yeah.
I know what
Yeah,
you're saying.
and that becomes an
Yours would be
issue,
free
but,
no matter what.
Yours would be
But
free
you
no
wouldn't
matter
run-
what.
You wouldn't run into issue, I'm just.
No, it wouldn't. It would be the random person that pulls in there. You know, it goes past the sign.
I'm just thinking,
I think with the dead end parking there as resident only, that will actually, having it as a dead end will deter people using, the retail business parking. It will deter them from actually going down into the dead end
Go the other way.
and taking up residential spots. Actually, I think
Yeah,
that's
I agree
good.
with that.
And you'll have signage that says like a resident
Yeah, I
parking
think
only.
you're gonna basically have some signs that like, almost like a do not enter when you're going up a ramp the wrong way. It's gonna be pretty obvious that you're not supposed to go down.
well, I disagree. I respect
Parking
your
is in
disagreement.
front of the business, entrances on the back of the building,
I just,
with overflow.
is that I can't see it, I'm sorry,
Yes.
is that parallel or is it angled?
These here are parallel
Okay.
parking spaces.
So you're not parking there anyways.
You can go park in the green bush lot.
And then you have parallel spaces when you first go in, are right there.
Right on the
Is that
right
another
here.
16?
That's 7 spaces immediately on the right.
Okay, and then same on the, a
On
little
the
bit less on the left.
This is 7 right there, and then 8 and 8.
And these are huge parking spaces, right? Because we're parking for trucks like you, right? These are the most big trucks, right?
These are 9 foot by 18 feet.
Which is standard.
That's your
Yeah,
standard,
that's
standard.
that's your standard parking
So we
spot.
went from giant cars in the 60s to little cars in the 80s to giant cars.
Right.
Okay.
And I will just, I have this thing about the bathroom flow, and this doesn't do it for me.
So when you,
I think I hear what you're saying, Ed, but I think if you sign it right, you'll be fine.
Yeah,
If they're numbered spots, you know,
the people are.
violators will be towed.
We know.
It's not gonna work.
It worked very well at the millwork when they did it there. Everything was in a assigned spot, so. And you got down to the end and you had to turn around. Usually it was an open spot. to back up. I don't know if it's that big of an issue, as long as it's, you know, visible.
Where's the snow going?
I'm sure we have snow up in this location on this landscape here as our primary snow. We also have a snow location here. This is a landscape island as well.
And the trash?
We have a dumpster, an enclosed dumpster at this location. We provided the turning analysis showing a truck coming in, backing up to the dumpster and then exiting the site.
And then there's always the option to take the snow offsite if we ever get a humongous amount of snow again,
Ever.
which we don't know if that's gonna happen. I'll change stuff that we do. Well, you know what
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that you don't like the parking, I'm kind of okay with it. Yeah, Karen, what would you like to talk about next?
Okay, so it seems parking would segue into traffic. That seems like they go together, and like Mr. Tedeschi said, I think that traffic, someone should offer an opinion on that dead end parking.
And Alex, Ms. Rod is also Alex,
Yes.
Yes,
so, why don't you go ahead and give me, yes.
I was just gonna say, do you wanna back up and just talk about the transition of the janitor closet, because that has to do with parking too. The janitor closet and the rental office. I think it's a segue into that, then traffic is the,
okay,
that's-
the parking calculation is a function of the, obviously, the commercial spaces and the whatnot,
So you changed it, yeah.
So Jamie, if you could just pop that sheet up and then, so we took the janitor closet, I think it might have said janitorial room or something, but that was just a closet. I think it was a misunderstanding that was gonna be like a janitor's office, it's not gonna be a full-time maintenance person on there. So we swapped that out and just called it that. Now, the area that we had before, the rental office, we abandoned that concept for a residence lounge on the first floor, so that there'll be like a, a place that people can sit waiting for the person to come down and let them in, or, just running upstairs, so that, Jamie, you could just point, so that,
Can I
so.
ask you a question, where, is that where the mailboxes are gonna be?
That's a good question.
How do you get mail here, do you have to go to Greenbush, how do you get, no? It's delivered?
There's a mail from, I think.
Yeah, we were showing a mail adjacent to the machine room. It could be located there, somewhere in here as well.
What's somewhere in there? What is that? I can't
Where that janitor place?
Because it's my.
So we've identified mailboxes here, right at the entrance area. So that's been consistent.
And packages would go, so,
Typically, those mailboxes, they offer systems that have 24x24, which can accommodate
I get my boxes like that.
when it gets much larger than that, then you have to go to the post office or.
I have that system for
now. The middle rectangle, what is that labeled?
This-
Up,
Next one.
Up here,
No,
No,
down,
This.
right there.
that's the egress stair,
This is stairway.
That's the stairway.
Yeah.
And then the one that's below that is
resident lounge.
which
resident.
was gonna be the rental office, which is
Right.
not gonna be anymore.
Basically, it's for people waiting for people to come in.
It's also an area where you can have a coffee maker in the morning and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
And the doors were eliminated, so it doesn't have any access to the commercial space, it's strictly for the use of the residents.
You see it quite often in new buildings.
And then at the top on the right, that's the janitor's closet or the one below it?
Machine.
Yep, what's that?
We have to have an elevator machine room at the
All right.
first level.
And then the other piece is, that opening is
The elevator.
Elevator.
the elevator. But you know what, you don't have a lot of room for mailboxes.
This would accommodate enough 24x24 for the 22 apartments. You'd be surprised how many, fit. I think they go about 5 high.
at my house, there's 8 feet.
5 feet high, excuse me.
Packages?
On the bottom.
No, the,
No, I know, but what do you do for packages?
Yeah, that's.
They go on the bottom.
Yeah, so there's
Okay.
usually a big, that they have a
Oh,
key
yeah,
for,
no.
and they'll put the key in your mailbox.
there are different sizes that you can select from, and I think the largest is 24 by 24 square.
So the main take on that was, we looked at the
So-
definition of gross square foot with the building commissioner, told them to be mindful of what gross floor area is, so that's why there were some changes.
So we started this whole thing off talking about janitor supply closet, which just appears to be there, so.
Where is it?
It's where the lounge is. Oh, no,
It's
sorry,
right there.
Right.
So what's the issue?
what's that?
Well, I think there was a suggestion that the janitor supply closet was to be calculated into the commercial space. And it's just a closet, it's not habitable, it's not intended for human habitability, so it's exempt from the gross floor area definition under the bylaw. We just changed the title so that it, you know, there wasn't any confusion.
For all the standards. Pull it out.
Exactly, all the mop buckets and vacuum cleaners and all that cleaning supplies. I think that's the intent. So segue into traffic.
I think traffic would be the next conversation.
Yeah, sure, so you asked for an opinion on this circulation pattern, I think it'll be fine. I think that, it's common to have, an area of reserved spaces, just, it has to be signed, and I think that's proposed to be signed for residents only, maybe even individual pavement markings if need be on the spaces or signs in front of the spaces. But I think that, you know, it's not, well, I understand your point about the retail parking spaces being further from the retail. The retail area, the commercial area is not right against the parking field anyway, and I think those folks will just find what they're gonna be dedicated if they wanna get to that retail area. So I don't expect that to be really an issue. In terms of the traffic review, we issued a couple letters dated February 10th. There was one that went to Chesia Consulting, responding to the Chapel Engineering peer review comments. I think in general, most of the comments were noted as resolved. We had some modifications to the traffic study and analysis that we did. There were a few comments on the site plan that we referred Chapel Engineering to the site plans provided by Greg's team. There was also a letter that went to the planning board, to Ms. Lambert's attention, that had to do with the comments that were raised in that meeting. It had to do with adding the intersection of Countryway and Stockbridge Road to the study, and also questions related to the time that the gas station where Lucky Finn and the Driftway General Store were, when they were open in relation to when the counts were conducted. So that facility was open 3 weeks before our counts were done, so they were included, their traffic was included in the counts. Then we asked the town for the status of road improvements in the area, and they said that they're waiting on a feasibility or a review of the traffic study or the traffic signal at Driftway and Old Driftway. We did receive a comment letter from Chapel dated March 20th, which seemed to state that all comments are resolved. I had a comment back on the monitoring program. We had agreed to do a monitoring program noting, comparing actual counts once the site's open to our projections. And we had agreed to do that monitoring program. And typically when you do traffic counts, even if it's for a regular traffic study, so it's 1 day of counts. We may have We may have 2 counts that do 48 hours or so, but that's to get fluctuations in traffic level over that extended time period. We don't typically do a count program for 5 days, which is what's being suggested by the peer reviewer. I think it's excessive. We didn't do it for the initial traffic study. We don't do it for any traffic study, quite honestly. And it just seems to be a lot of expense to get that breadth of data. And we have no problem doing a monitoring study for 1 day. That's not an issue. But I think to do it 5 days and then take the average is a little much. I think that's a summary of traffic.
Thank you. Ms. Braun, do you have anything as our traffic engineer?
Yeah, so I think Scott covered most of what I was gonna say. A lot of our comments, the majority of them were addressed in their third submission of materials. Touching on quickly about the parking and circulation that we've discussed a bit tonight. One suggestion we did have, we understand that those parking spaces are going to be devoted to residents. But even residents in those last 2 spaces at the very end of the aisle might have difficulty getting out of their spots if other cars if the other spots were occupied around them. So typically what we do when we have a dead end aisle like that is we provide a little bump out sort of at the end of the aisle, provide a little bit more maneuvering space to make sure that those vehicles in those end spaces can safely get out of their spots. So that's something that we might suggest here just to make, it a little easier for those last 2 vehicles if all the spaces around them are occupied. With regard to the traffic monitoring study, we understand that, there is a cost associated with counting 5 days worth of traffic. We just want to make sure, and this is for the board to consider, that if they were to only count 1 day, that day isn't much lower than what they typically see out there on an average weekday, which is why we came up with the 5 days. So you count Monday through Friday and you sort of average those days there. I think that's something for the board to consider for what they'd be comfortable with as far as a traffic monitoring study goes out there. Understanding that, yeah, there is a cost with counting the traffic data, but we just want to make sure that what they collect is actually representative of what's going on out there, which is why we had suggested that. So those are just the 2 things that I wanted to touch on just in response to what VAI had brought up, but I can answer any questions the board might have.
Well, I would ask that it not be Monday through Friday, but you have to include a weekend day because everybody's going to the transfer station and we have to go by that building. So that's more than Monday through Friday, I think, is that ancillary trip to, not the dump, the transfer station, right? The transfer, that transfer station, then we have to include that, yes, Mr.
Yeah, I have a question. Why can't you just use the Drew traffic study?
Because every project has its own traffic study, sorry, but that's kind of like the rules, so.
Did the Drew company have to do 5 days or if they wanted to? Does anyone know?
I can't remember, it was.
The Drew company has to do some monitoring of the light timing.
Yeah.
When they're 60% occupied.
Yeah.
So they have things for mitigation that they have to do as well.
So they're gonna take care of part of that for you, which will be the light issue, which we know is a problem, but I would strongly suggest that you take a weekend day, because that's the day I would have.
So I would say that the traffic study, because it's a residential, primarily residential development, it looked at weekday times only, weekday morning and weekday evening. And what we're doing is we're comparing the results that we observe after the fact, after it's built and occupied, to what we projected. So we don't have a weekend day in there, is my point.
I think you should do like a couple of days, like either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. Because that's the day when I think it seems like the commuter station is used the most. Like Mondays and Fridays, people are now into 2 to 3 days a week, right? So, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday is probably.
Do Tuesday, Wednesday, Steve, because the transfer station is closed
On Thursday.
on Thursday.
Yeah, so I think 2 days would be fine, right? But we wanna get the middle of the week, not the ends.
So take that under advisement, we're taking stuff under advisement.
You know, I still want to take the parking under advisement.
We're taking everything under advisement.
Fine, thank you.
This is all about listening tonight.
All right.
Just to follow up on that, the recommendation here, is
Uh-huh.
there room to build a bump out there?
It looks like there is, yes.
Okay, so if you could take that under advisement. Karen?
All right, so, the waivers, you wanna talk about waivers?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I had a motion. So, which waiver would you like to talk about first, Patty?
Well, let's start at the first one and work our way through.
Okay, so you can order. So the first one we already talked about was 750.5, which was encroachments, the deviations from the step depth, right? So I think we're comfortable with that one, at least our presentation, we're comfortable with the presentation. Is that fair? That was the 0.4% and the
Yeah.
7% that Jamie went over. The second one that I have is low impact development for standard sustainable landscaping. This is the 25% impervious surface in the front yard portions of, to limit the driveways, walkways, and paved outdoor patios. My sort of argument with the waiver here is that because this district has a 0 front yard setback, 0 to 20, building is allowed to be on the property line along the right of way or the street. And then, so in this case, we get sort of penalized, because now we have 2 streets, because we're on a corner lot. We have to have an entryway, obviously an asphalt paved entryway, and an exit way. In this case, changing my description, I may have said 2 entrances. But see, one's an exit, one's an entrance and exit. We have put, everything in that space is, has been designed with pervious materials, except for the sidewalk that the town owns that's on our property, and of course, the traveled way to and from the parking lot to the right of way. The other things are, the other design elements will be pervious in that regard. The applicant here gets sort of penalized from the sidewalk because it's made to town standards and it's on our property. We don't have the ability to count that area towards the 25% pervious surface calculation. And I think that sort of summarizes my argument on that. I'm a little bit more technical in my letter about the actual bylaw and how it interprets how it describes the build-to zone versus a setback. In describing the setback or the build-to zone as wrapping around the building is considered the front yard. There is no definition in the bylaw of front yard. So it's up to the board to determine what really is the front yard. Typically, in a normal situation, when you have a front yard setback where the building can't be in that, you would call that the front yard, right? If it's 30 feet in most of the town, you can't put any structures there. That's the front yard. In this district, you can put structures in the front yard because we have a 0 front yard setback minimum. And of course, a 20-foot maximum, I guess, is how you put it. So it's a bit of a quandary. The bylaw is difficult to manage in a situation like this with respect to trying to develop that kind of pervious surface. The 25% is a big number for any development because of, the parking requirements and whatnot. The patio's pervious, the proposed patio's pervious. Obviously, we're gonna have some grass strips and areas in there as well. The putting pervious asphalt in an entryway for vehicle traffic is not ideal. It's going to wear out fast. Trucks are gonna be turning on it. It's gonna create potholes all the time. It's gonna be a maintenance nightmare. So we're asking the board to consider the project as it has been proposed in that it does not comply with the 25% because of those reasons. The building being located in the typical, what we would call the front yard, the sidewalk on our property in the front yard, and of course, the entrance and exit in the front yard. So anything to add, Greg? This is sort of Greg's baby as far as the design part of it.
I think it's important to know that the existing site doesn't comply with the 25%. It already exceeds it at 28.6%, largely in part, again, the town has a 5 to 6 foot wide concrete sidewalk, which we're essentially being penalized for on the property. All, again, as as Steve just said. All of the walkways, the patios in the front of the building are made of pervious materials. The only impervious materials that are in the front yard setback are the access driveway, the egress driveway, and any of the parking that might fall in that front yard setback. I had met with Karen and Bob Vogel early on to try to determine how to make this calculation even because, as was alluded to, there is no definition here. Typically, I would have said that the front yard is the area in the front of the building. What we walked away from that meeting is the front yard actually extends all the way to the side lot lines on either side of the building. So even over on the right-hand side of the drawing there, where you have the in and out of the driveway, that is considered front yard all the way out to the property line.
I
So
think
we're
it's,
asking for a
So
waiver.
I don't
Yes.
believe you stated how much is the percent impervious is in
yeah,
that.
sure, it's on the plan.
It's on sheet 4 of the plan, I do have the number here, it's 45.3%. The existing site is at 28.6%.
And this is of what we were, we're trying to understand the front yard, this isn't, that's the percentage of the front yard. As it's been described to us, not that I don't necessarily agree with that description, but that's as it's described to us, those are the percentages that we're dealing with. In that it's a pre-existing non-conforming coverage. I suppose the alternative, if the board doesn't think that they want to grant this waiver, then we would likely we would like to go to the ZBA and ask for them to give us a finding on whether or not this extension or alteration of the impervious surface would be substantially more detrimental, like we would do on a non-conforming project. I don't think we need to do that if the planning board sees fit to, grant the waiver. I think we probably wouldn't trouble the ZBA with that. But if it's an issue for the planning board, I think that it falls in the lap of the ZBA because it's a pre-existing non-conforming dimensional element of the lot already. So, and again,
This doesn't quite pass the straight-faced test. And this goes back to what I said initially. You designed a lovely building and you put it on a lot that's too small. It's too small. And then what you're doing is you're creating a non-conformity. And I cannot support that. And that's where I stand.
Yeah, I was thinking we were gonna, if you wanna go to 28.6, right? The current pre-existing 45, so it's like,
then we wouldn't, if we did that, Steve, we wouldn't have driveway entrances. We wouldn't have, there's just no way to do it without,
yeah, I know, but
you couldn't put the
I
building,
didn't design it, so.
yeah, you couldn't put a building that would be financially feasible on the lot if you held to that 25% for the perceived front yard.
Yes, Mr. Guy, I'm gonna interrupt you right there.
Sure.
Because, this planning board does not sit in support or non-support of how much money somebody makes on their property. Our job is to make sure that we have the very best project for the town. And we know that very often, they're oppositional, and we have to work together in order to make that the very best. One is a lot, and what you have is a lot, so we have to see that we're struggling as well, so we're gonna take this under advising as well. And again, as we've stated from day one, we think this is a very large building because of these kind of issues, which is we don't have enough space. My concern, actually, to Mr. Morse, is that our front yard runs all the way along the length of the building, correct? That's what you're telling me, right? That's what Mr. Baldwin, Mr. Joseph told you, so. In order to make that even somewhat sustainable, we need to see a humongous list of what you intend on planting there. And how, all that, so we have salt, we have asphalt, we've got sand, we have wind. So as you can see that this is a difficult thing. It isn't that we don't want to play nice, it's just sometimes some projects are harder to play with. So you have to see, that's a big difference, as Mr. Pritchard points out, that goes a long way, that's a big building. And we understand that part of that is because you have to have driveways. Kind of, these are our laws and these are our rules, not our laws, our rules and our bylaws and our regulations. And we have to play within those churches and parameters that we have. And we know that that's difficult, And you have to take into account that it's also difficult for us to be able to say yes or no on an individual basis, because we don't look at this stuff across the board. We look at every project individually, and they're really hard sometimes to make these really kind of extraneous, like off the top of your head, this stuff takes a lot of concern and a lot of thought. So that being said, Mr. Pritchett.
So
Well,
if I could just,
I'm just saying, the standard is 25%. That's the standard. So you're asking us to weigh what is the standard. And I guess I'm not seeing the mitigating, arguments that say this is a special case for whatever reason. We have other people come in, and everybody's gonna want 45% instead of 25%, and frankly, we're not inclined to do that, right? So,
my point is, I guess my point is that in an urban type of development like this, with a 0 front yard setback, in a bylaw that requires 25% impervious surface for driveways, walkways, in paved patios, it's almost impossible to do that, because you're telling the applicant you can't have more than 25% impervious surface for your access to the lot and building. It's almost, in my mind, and I'm not an engineer, but it's almost impossible to design with that as the limiting factor. We're not talking about 25% open space, right, on the lot. We're talking about 25%, the driveways, walkways, and outdoor dining patios, which in this case is pervious, cannot exceed 25% of the front yard. This is a teeny front yard because there's a 0 front yard setback allowed. So how do I do that? How do I do the geometry in my head? I'm having a difficult time balancing the bylaw with what we put on the ground.
Well, maybe just as part of, for our next meeting, maybe you wanna find out from the applicant, how much is pervious? How much do they have? What does this 45% comprise of? Maybe that's what you wanna find out. Just because you go to 0 feet for the building setback doesn't mean you do go to 0 feet. This building is 5 feet, but maybe 5 feet is not right. But I would suggest breaking it out so the board can actually see what it's made of, and that might give you some more information.
So as you know, Mr.
We
Guy,
can do that.
you can ask for a waiver if we need to know why.
Yeah, and that's what, yeah.
And I understand this will jump you, but I think Karen's right, that we need to have a breakout of what that is,
Yeah.
make it a little easier for us to understand what it is that you're, why you want so much.
I hope that my letter explained why, but I think it's explaining more about our trouble with the bylaw. And I get
Can I
it.
make a comment, please?
Uh-huh.
The comment is, there's density bonus here, okay, and that's what's driving the size of the building as well. There's a great deal of money at stake for the town for each density bonus, and also a great deal of taxes forever that gets paid to the town. That's why we're over, and that's what fueled the size of this building as well. We've worked so hard here to, this is an entrance to Scituate. It means a lot to me. I am very frustrated where this is going. I went through the whole due process, and I was at every meeting. There was no way that they went through what we're going through. And their buildings speak for themselves. They're right next door. They're monstrosities. Okay, that's my thought. Thank you.
So if you could do that for us.
Yeah, we'll come back with like a plan that identifies the areas in
Yes.
in the materials,
In the
as
interest
well
of,
as the plan.
in the interest of
Now, we
time,
need to wrap this up about 4 minutes.
we haven't even heard about drainage, and that might be a kind of key area.
So what do you want to do, Karen?
If you can be very succinct on the waivers, we really do need to hear about drainage as well.
So, okay, so the next waiver is pretty simple. That was the one we talked about last time. The crosswalk being 10 feet required, 6 feet, we're asking for because the sidewalk is 5, and John agrees that they have to kind of match together. So that was that one. My argument is that the reasoning for that is we're attaching to an existing sidewalk. The other one is low impact design. This one might be a little bit more of a discussion, Karen, but it's 11-foot buffer zone as opposed to 15. My letter indicates that in order to accommodate the parking areas for the 41 cars, we were requesting an 11-foot buffer It's 26.2 feet from the improved portion of the road, it's 20 feet from the back of the sidewalk, so there's still, it's not like it's crammed in, there is room there. And I think the other thing is that the opposite, the other site is also developed on the other side, so, let's see. 750 we trust, open space we just did, I think that's it for me, because we did the density bonus already, so those are the other two folks that I had mentioned in my letter. If there are any questions you have on my letter, feel free to call me directly, I can certainly talk to you more about that in more depth. The letter could have been even longer, and I apologize for the length of the letter. This is, as you all know, a complicated bylaw, complicated project, so if we want to jump to drainage.
Drainage, yeah.
You got it. Do you want to use John's letter? I don't have anything on drainage.
John?
Yeah, that's his job.
Maybe you can quickly summarize.
Sure, so, as far as the drainage goes, I have just a few comments, some of those could be dealt with as conditions, I guess, at the end of the day, but, inlet capacity or catch basins that are on the slope, the calculations were for catch basin at a low point, but we want to make sure it doesn't bypass the ones on the slope. That's basically going into Old Brook, right? Soil testing, there's 3 tests under the system, but 2 of them don't go beyond to the bottom. So I think that we know the area, it's sand and gravel, it's the old gravel bit. But you never know what you might hit, because I think it used to be a junkyard, so. Anyway, so you could condition that at their risk, that it gets inspected at the time and that everything's all right then if you want to. But just as long as it's clear that it's at their risk. I think, so there's a lot of pervious pavers. This discussion was held before on the other project, and some more information like this. We've had some problems with those, and I think pretty much the same thing I said a few weeks ago. Erosion control plan. I think, again, the main one on this part of it is the construction phase aspects of it, in terms of the runoff and things like that, because you got a very tight site and how you get it all, to work for that. One thing that wasn't discussed on this one that we did talk about the last time that maybe we should bring up again is the EV charging stations and the handicap thing, just because it is, I know Greg's on both of them, but it's a different team for the rest of it. So, how that works relative to is one of them accessible and the location and all that, I think is probably something else to consider.
So Greg, you can take care of that, right?
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
got that all right.
I think my letter says we did that, I apologize, I thought we had caught that.
You might have, but the one that I looked at before.
I don't know if we did, John, I think you're right, I think we're still gonna have to locate one.
You're right, John.
Okay.
I have a couple of comments too. The butters on the opposite side of the road need to be labeled. The by right requirement needs to be added to the plans for the density. The maximum's on there, but not the by right. And the setback, step back numbers don't agree with the zoning bylaw.
Yes, we got, we're frustrated, and we are too, but we'll promise you that when this is done, and if it does get done or whatever, it's gonna be the best that you can ever
I
have.
agree, I'd like everybody to know as well, through this whole process, there's been not one town person show up to any of these meetings opposed, and not one. And as a matter of fact, we've had people come up, and some of them at the meetings keep highly out the project.
We'll take that all under advisement. I think we're ready, because we want to rock and roll, but we have 5 other things after
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry, thank you for your
It's a
patience.
public hearing, so do we have anybody online or in the audience?
If you're online and you'd like to make comment, if you could raise your hand on your Zoom, that would be fantastic at this moment. No good.
Yes, Mr. McCarthy.
Oh, just one quick thing about the waiver and the impervious surfaces. I think that eventually we're gonna have like kind of come to a reconciliation on what the density requirements, like per acre, so by right density allowances and the parking that's required for them, and if you wanna have an impervious surface or you know, or they're just gonna have a grass parking lot, or, you know,
Yeah.
we gotta, and so there's gonna be trade-offs, I
We need to
think,
flesh
with,
that out.
yeah, with, having like a parking lot that lasts, or, you know, or losing, or having a higher percentage of impervious surfaces.
Very good point.
Right, all set?
You're all set.
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing of the site plan administrative review and special permit for mixed-use building and stormwater permit in the village center and neighborhood district, Greenbush Gateway District, New Driftway Transit Village Subdistrict, BCN, GDG, NDTV until May 25th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. and to continue the time for action filing with the town clerk until July 28th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. See you,
Thanks, folks.
Thursday.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
May 25th.
Sorry to keep you waiting, it's 8 p.m. This is 8:05. Sorry to keep you waiting. It's a public hearing, a special permit accessory dwelling at 27 Pine Drive.
Are you ready for me to read?
We are ready.
In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 9 and 11, and with Scituate zoning bylaw, Section 530, accessory dwelling special permit, and Section 940 referrals, the planning board will conduct a public hearing at 8 p.m. on Thursday, March 23, 2023, in the Select Board's hearing room at Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. The subject of the hearing is an application submitted by applicant Kimberly Devine Reedy and owners Colin J. Reedy and Kimberly Devine Reedy for an accessory dwelling special permit for an accessory dwelling within a single-family home at property located at 27 Pine View Drive, Scituate. In addition, an addition is proposed over the existing garage, and a one-story addition is proposed behind the garage for the accessory dwelling. Property as shown on the assessor's map, lot parcel 36-5-4. Plans are available for review in the planning board office, town hall, abutters, et cetera, Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Mr. Derry, we don't have you tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, for the record. My name is Paul Maravito from Russell Engineering Company, and with me to my right is the applicants, and me and Colin Reedy. The locus is 46,620 square foot lot with an existing home on it that was built in 1965. There are some wetlands to the rear of the property. We have received an order of conditions from Conservation Commission. There's also the Scituate Floodplain and Watershed Protection District is here, which puts the whole site in it. We have received approval from the zoning board. There's two special permits, one for a substantial improvement in the Water Resource Protection District, and also one for increasing the gross water area by more than 20%. The total increase is 37.5%. The existing dwelling is shown in orange, along with the existing garage. The accessory dwelling will be the shaded area. There will be a proposed addition to the rear of the garage, which is 14 feet deep and 22.5 feet wide. There's some small porches to the rear, will stay open, and one will be enclosed. There's a separate entryway into the accessory dwelling in this area here. We have provided 2 parking spaces in front of the garage. Foundation will be built on piles because it's in a FEMA flood zone, so it'll meet the construction requirements for doing work in that zone. There's no changes in the grading on the site. The septic system is in the front yard. There's 4 bedrooms in the house now, and there were before when the accessory dwelling was built, and that has been confirmed to you by the Board of Health. Increase in the impervious area is only 12.5%. It's less than a 25% threshold for stormwater, so we haven't provided any stormwater. We have submitted the architectural plans. The garage will have a second floor on it, which will be the 4th bedroom now, as well as some additional room for the occupants. The parents of the applicant are proposing to live in the structure. So I think with that, I'm willing to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. If you see a strange car driving down the street, that was me.
Okay.
Coming to see.
Oh, that's funny, I did see it,
We
actually.
go to look at all the
Yeah.
property sites, it's like, it's a dead end street, you can't stop there, so we put it in here.
I did see it, funny.
Not that we don't go on anybody's property, but just to get a general idea of where we go. This is a big addition, but it falls under the bylaw. It's a large accessory dwelling, but unless we have any other questions from anybody, I think it needs some approval.
So there's parking spaces for the accessory, is there parking spaces for the dwelling too? I'm just missing that, or do we
Yeah,
just
there are.
need two?
Well, the driveway is quite long, so there's parking in the garage, there's parking all down the driveway, they can fit multiple spaces. Originally, they had 2 parking spaces, but we determined after consultation with conservation and building that they really don't need them, and this would be the best way, because we have, this is in the zone 2, zone A is right by here, water resource protection district. This made the most sense for this project. They have enough parking in that driveway.
Okay,
It's a long driveway.
great, thanks.
Richard?
Are there 2 ways in and out of this place?
Well, where are the egresses? We had to get in and out, where are the 2 egresses in and out?
There's a proposed entryway in the front, which is shown on your plans. It's in this area here, and then there's a rear door at the back of the unit. There's also a door on the left side of the garage.
Richard is satisfied with that?
This is a public hearing.
This is a public hearing, is anybody in the room or online?
If there's anyone online that would like to make a comment, now is public comment period, you can raise your hand on the bottom of your screen for your Zoom, and we can take that comment. No question?
What's the architectural finish on the new piece versus the old piece?
Is it gonna match?
Yeah.
Is it gonna
It
match?
can be flat, yeah, right now it's flat, yeah, same.
Just flat, what, right?
Really, if you drove by the front, the only difference you'll see from the front is the room above the garage. That will be the only difference that you see, the rest is in the back.
Is there new lighting proposed?
Well, their entrance in the front will be from the existing porch area. So there is a light on the front porch and there is a,
But that's existing.
It's already there.
existing, yeah,
Is there any new light, particularly outdoor lighting?
In the back.
in the back. I mean, we can put some in, I don't think.
Yeah.
No, I just want to make sure it's down lighting.
Just,
I
yeah.
think it's a
Yeah.
We don't
floodlight.
like,
There is
There's a
existing
floodlight.
lights, yeah,
There's a
there's
couple
existing.
floodlights.
we don't like pollution, you should not say, so not
Into other
But
people's
yeah,
yards.
people's yards.
Oh,
no.
Yeah, no,
No.
just in you.
Yes.
And the coyotes.
Yeah.
and turkeys.
So we had 3 comments on this. We had comment from the water department that they had no comments. We had a comment from the Board of Health that they'll have to have a Title V inspection. We had another comment from the Board of Health that they're okay, they'll review it again when it goes to the building permit, but they have to take out 1 bedroom from the primary dwelling to have the dwelling for the accessory.
And Mr. Maravito is explaining all that, sure.
All set?
Are we all set then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to make the following findings of fact. One, on February 7th, 2023, applicant Kimberly Devine Reed applied for special permit for accessory dwelling in a single-family home at the property at 27 Pineview Circle. 2, according to the town of Scituate's assessors records and the deed, the property at 27 Pineview Drive is owned by Colin J. Reedy and Kimberly Devine Reed. The applicant signed a notarized authorization among Ross Engineering Company and Grady Consulting LLC to represent them at meetings before the planning board. Paul Maravito as agent signed the application. 3, based on a floor plan submitted with the application and the new assessor's card, the planning board finds the floor area of the accessory dwelling to be 1,559.66 square feet. This includes the dining room, den, bath, closet, hall, second floor bedroom, and the existing family room, which will be part of the accessory dwelling. The floor area of the primary dwelling is 3,351 square feet, according to the assessor's records. A finished basement also adds 1,058 square feet. The existing family room will be taken out of the primary dwelling and moved to the accessory dwelling. Thus, the primary dwelling's square footage is 4,156.34 square feet. The accessory dwelling is 37.52% of the floor area of the primary dwelling, not counting the entry area. This meets the size requirements of 530.2F of the zoning bylaw for accessory dwellings, as the bylaw allows for 750 square feet or 40% of the total floor area of the primary dwelling, whichever is greater. The accessory dwelling is subordinate to the existing single-family home. For the accessory dwelling unit will be a complete separate housekeeping unit, and there will be only 1 accessory dwelling on the lot. 5, the property is in the residential R2 zoning district and water resource protection district, with the majority of the property in zone 2. The proposed accessory dwelling structure meets all required setbacks, building height, and yard requirements for a private dwelling. 6, the proposed accessory dwelling is to be located in a first floor addition to the single-family home with a second floor bedroom over the garage. Access will be via a door at the front of the house and from a stairway at the rear of the house from a new deck. 7, the appearance of the accessory dwelling will be in keeping with the appearance of the primary dwelling. 8, the accessory dwelling site plan for 27 Pineview Drive in Scituate, Mass. By Grady Consulting LLC, dated January 25, 2023, with revisions through 2/16/23, shows the location of the existing primary dwelling and the proposed accessory dwelling. The plan shows an existing bituminous driveway which can fit at least 4 parking spaces. This appears adequate to provide 2 parking spaces for the primary dwelling and 2 spaces for the accessory dwelling. Ample parking appears to be provided. 9, the applicant owners have submitted a signed notarized statement that they will continue to reside on the property in one of the dwelling units. 10, the accessory dwelling will be serviced by town water and a private septic system. The water department has no comments. The Board of Health has commented that a Title V inspection will be necessary. 11, the applicant meets the standards of the zoning bylaw for the accessory dwelling special permit. Is there a second for the findings? In fact,
Second,
All in favor?
before you do that,
Yep.
just the last sentence, Board of Health is coming, the Title V inspection would be necessary, is that prior to building permit, or is that?
It's gonna be prior to the building permit, yeah.
So what do we just say prior to issuance?
is there a second as amended?
Second.
All in favor?
I-
Aye. Unanimous, thank you.
I move to approve the special permit for accessory dwelling at 27 Pineview Drive with the following conditions, in addition to the standard conditions for accessory dwellings approved by the planning board after a public hearing on 12/17/15. 1, except for any changes necessary to meet these conditions, any construction shall substantially conform to plans submitted with the application by Brenda Tower dated 11/16/22, consisting of 8 sheets for the Divine Reading residence, including front elevation 1 of 8, left elevation 2 of 8, rear elevation 3 of 8, first floor plan 4 of 8, second floor plan 5 of 8, cross section 6 of 8, cross section 7 of 8, existing first floor plan sheet 1 of 2 undated, existing second floor plan sheet 2 of 2 undated, foundation plan 8 of 8, accessory dwelling site plan for 27 Pineview Drive in Scituate, Mass. By Grady Consulting LLC, dated January 25, 2023, with revisions dated 2/16/2023. 2, the number of bedrooms in the accessory dwelling is limited to 1 in the location and size indicated on the floor plan submitted with the application. 3, no further expansion of the accessory dwelling floor area is allowed without further review by the planning board. 4, upon occupancy of the accessory dwelling, the applicant shall provide a notarized affidavit that an owner is living in one of the dwelling units. A yearly certification that the owner occupies one of the dwelling units must be provided by March 1st period. 5, all requirements of the Board of Health, Building Department, Zoning Board of Appeals, Department of Public Works, Fire Department, and other town agencies must be met prior to occupancy of the accessory dwelling. 6, the accessory dwelling shall conform to all applicable standards in the building planning, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, fire, and health codes and bylaws. 7, any lighting installed shall be down lighting to not shed light on abutting properties. 8, construction work shall not begin prior to 7 a.m. weekdays and 8 a.m. on Saturdays, and shall cease no later than 7 p.m. or sunset, whichever is earlier. No construction shall take place on Sundays or legal, state, and federal holidays. Construction includes idling of vehicles, delivery of materials to the site, and all other construction activities. 9, runoff from the proposed accessory dwelling shall not be increased from the property. As the property is in the Water Resource Protection District, rooftop runoff must be designed to recharge the first inch of rainfall. An order of conditions has been issued by the Conservation Commission allowing for overland flow for the single-family dwelling. A plan for attaining runoff requirements must be provided to the building commissioner as part of the building permit application. 10, erosion and sedimentation control devices shall be installed to prevent any erosion or sedimentation from leaving the site during construction. Silt socks shall be used as necessary. 11, the appearance of the accessory dwelling will be in keeping with the primary dwelling unless otherwise revised by the Massachusetts Building Code, and new exterior stairs needed to provide primary or secondary means of egress. The accessory dwelling shall be located on the side or rear of the building. 12, at least 2 private off-street parking spaces shall be available for use by occupants for the accessory dwelling, in addition to those parking spaces required for the primary dwelling.
All in favor?
Aye.
The applicant, did you have a question?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
So you're all set?
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And you can't have your trucks parked out on the street. You know, the construction people.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, you mean doing the work, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I could do one central.
All right, so what we do is we'll try to file this next week, then there's a 21-day appeal period.
Okay.
Or 20-day appeal period, then you have to pick up a certified copy.
Yep.
And get it, and file it with the registry.
Yep, got it, okay. Yeah, I filed it with the conservation last week,
Right.
so.
And you're going to have to you'll have to file your stuff from the DBA as well.
Okay, great, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, Peter.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you, Jerry.
We are on that.
So we now are at accessory dwelling for 62 Kennel Drive. Okay, hold on. So Mr. Moss is here, how are you?
Good yourself?
Here, do you need a-
Oh. You took your toys away.
Oh, no.
In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 9 and 11, and the Scituate zoning bylaw, Section 530, accessory dwelling special permit, and Section 940 referrals, the planning board will conduct a public hearing at 8:15 p.m. on Thursday, March 23, 2023, in the Select Board hearing room at Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Highway. The subject of the hearing is an application submitted by applicant owners Robin L. and Brian D. Kelly, an accessory dwelling special permit for an accessory dwelling to be located in the first floor addition of an existing single-family dwelling and property located at 62 Pin Oak Drive. Property is shown on assessor's map block parcel 48-2-51-F. Plans are available for review in the planning board office, the butters, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the property owner and applicant Robin and Brian Kelly. The applicant in this case, Robin, is with us on the Zoom call tonight. She has lived at this residence her entire life. She purchased the house from her parents in 1996. Her mother is at the age where they'd like to move her back in with them so that she can be closer to her friends and family. The property is located at 62 Pin Oak Drive. We're here for an accessory dwelling in accordance with 530 of the bylaw. The lot itself is fully conforming. It's located in the R2 zoning district. It's serviced by municipal water and sewer service. The existing home here, being built in 1964, is approximately 1,652 square feet, a 3-bedroom house. The proposed addition that you see on the plan here is off the back of the garage. Essentially, I've highlighted it in brown on the plan. It comprises of the accessory dwelling, which is 750 square feet in size. It has an entrance on the right-hand side of the building. It has a second egress into the backyard. We submitted with the application copies of architectural plans, designs by Heather Marshall, architect. I have those on board here. You'll see that the site from the front renderings from the front here, the existing house, the existing garage. Coming off the back of the garage, this is the accessory dwelling. Again, just a single story off the back of the house. This would be a view of the backyard. Currently, this would be the accessory dwelling with the second means of egress there. A set of floor plans that were submitted documenting the areas of the rooms. Coming in at 750 square feet here, with egress point here on the side of the building, and then a second egress into the backyard, being a 1-bedroom accessory. It appears to meet all of the requirements in the bylaw for approval. There are 6 parking spaces, 4 of which are in the driveway, and then 2 in the existing garage. There's plenty of parking at this location. We did submit 2 letters of support from the butters, including the direct abutter at the back of the property to the board. Turn it over to you.
Well, I live by your house also, Miss Kelly, so I can see the strange cars, that's just me driving by. You know what I'm gonna ask, Mr. Morse, is that we have, an asphalt driveway and then you wanna change it to gravel. Can you tell us why you want to do that, if you think it would be less stable? I've learned a lot about stability, about driveways and whatnot, and engineering that can help, if you tell us
Sure.
why that is, and why you would want to approve that.
There's no requirement in this town that a driveway be paved by any chance. In this case here, we are in the Water Resource Protection District, as was the application that was just previous to me. In this case here, we're trying to eliminate impervious surface, which is encouraged in the Water Resource Protection District. The driveway is flat in topography. I don't see any problems. I know that people historically in this town have removed asphalt driveways and replaced them with gravel. They've replaced them with shell or other pervious materials. It's done all the time. I don't see any areas here that would be subject to erosion. There are no wetlands on the site. I have no concerns doing so. It is to keep us under the thresholds of the stormwater bylaw Keeps us under the 25% increase.
I'm not being rude, Mr. Wilson, you're trying not to file a stormwater permit.
That's correct.
It's fine with me.
Well, did you see the picture? The driveway is not flat, the driveway is on a slope. I sent you all a picture.
As long as they manage it, I mean, that's gonna be their problem. I mean, as long as they find manage great. Then, somebody doesn't want an asphalt driveway. I'll be the last person to say they have to have it. I don't have an asphalt driveway. But they have to design it in a way that it manages the water flow.
Works for me.
The siding, is it all the same?
That's wood shingle.
So it's gonna match the existing one.
Question.
Also, we want to talk to the public. Or Karen first.
Karen first.
You had several department comments, comments from two abutters which came in support of the application. We had no comment from the water division, sewer division, that property shall owe half privilege fee because they're connected to sewer. And the Water Resource Commission, based on impervious lot coverage, they have to meet the requirements for 520.5 for Water Resource Protection District. They'll need to show artificial recharge, so it will not result in degradation of groundwater quality. In addition, the applicant will need to show that all other operation and design guidelines in 520.5 are met, as this falls entirely within the Water Resource Protection District.
Is this recharging the driveway?
Yes, it does. They're depicted on our plan using those to that effect. Same as the application that was just before us.
Yeah, you know that we do every project individually, and we learn from every project. So.
Good.
The public, is there anybody on the line that wants to speak to us? Raise your hand, please. Ms. Kelly, would you like to say something?
Hold on.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. No, I just want to thank you for considering our project. This has been my family home since I was 2 years old, and I'm just looking to bring my mom back home so she can be back in the town that she raised her family in and live the rest of her life with her family close by. So I do appreciate your consideration of our project.
Well, thank you for submitting it, I guess.
Anybody else?
For everybody else?
No.
Are we ready? Here we go. 62 Penwood Drive. I move to make the following findings for fact. On February 14, 2023, applicants Robin L. and Brian D. Kelly applied for special permit for an accessory dwelling in a single-family home property at 62 Penwood Drive. According to the town of Scituate assessor's records and the deed, the property at 62 Penwood Drive is owned by Robin L. and Brian D. Kelly. Both owners signed the accessory dwelling special permit application based on the floor plan submitted with the application. The planning board finds the floor area of the accessory dwelling to be 749 square feet. The floor area of the primary dwelling is 1,652 square feet, according to the assessor's records. The accessory dwelling is 45.3% of the floor area of the primary dwelling. This meets the size requirements of 530.2F of the zoning bylaw for accessory dwellings, as the bylaw allows 750 square feet, or 40% of the total floor area of the primary dwelling, whichever is greater. The accessory dwelling is subordinate to the existing single-family home. For the accessory dwelling unit will be a complete separate housekeeping unit, and there will be only one accessory dwelling on the lot. The properties in the residential R2 zoning district, and water resource protection district. The proposed accessory dwelling surface meets all required setbacks, building height and yard requirements for primary dwelling. 6, the proposed accessory dwelling is to be located in a first floor addition to the single family home. Access will be via a door at the side of the house and a second door on the back side of the house leading to a deck. 7, the appearance of the accessory dwelling will be in keeping with the appearance of the primary dwelling. 8, the accessory dwelling site plan for 62 Pin Oak Drive in Scituate, Mass. By Morse Engineering Company, Inc., dated 2/3/2023, shows the location of the existing primary dwelling and the proposed accessory dwelling. The plan shows an existing bituminous driveway which can fit 4 parking spaces. This appears adequate to provide 2 parking spaces for the primary dwelling and 2 spaces for the accessory dwelling. Ample parking appears to be provided. The existing bituminous concrete driveway, which is on a slope, is shown on the site to be partially removed and replaced with gravel. 9, the applicant owners have submitted a signed notarized statement that they will both occupy the dwelling upon completion of the project. 10, the accessory dwelling will be serviced by town water and sewer. The water department has commented that they have no comments. The sewer department has commented that the accessory dwelling will require a half sewer connection fee of $8,000 to connect to town sewer and will require a utilities plan. 11, the applicant meets the standards of the Scituate zoning bylaw for an accessory dwelling special permit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to approve the special permit for accessory dwelling at 62 Pin Oak Drive with the following additions. In addition to standard conditions for the accessory dwellings approved by the planning board after a public hearing on 12/17/15. 1, except for any changes necessary to meet these conditions, any construction shall substantially conform to the plans submitted with the application by design by Marshall LLC dated 1/20/23, consisting of Kelly Residence Project number 22024, in-law addition, 62 Pin Oak Drive, Scituate, Mass. 02066, cover sheet. Excuse me. Demo basement and first floor plan, D1.1, demo second floor and roof plans, D1.2, basement plan, A1.1, first floor plan, A1.2, roof plan, A1.3, exterior elevations, A2.1, exterior elevations, A2.2, accessory dwelling site plan for 62 Pin Oak Drive in Scituate, Mass. By Morse Engineering, Inc., dated 2/3/2023. To the number of bedrooms in accessory dwelling is limited to 1 in the location and size indicated on the floor plan submitted with the application. 3, no further expansion of the accessory dwelling floor area is allowed without further review by the planning board. Upon occupancy of the accessory dwelling, the applicant shall provide a notarized affidavit that an owner is living in one of the dwelling units. A yearly certification that the owner occupies one of the dwelling units must be provided by March 1st yearly. 5, all requirements of the Board of Health, Building Department, Zoning Board of Appeals, Department of Public Works, Fire Department, and other town agencies must be met prior to occupancy of the accessory dwelling. 6, the accessory dwelling shall conform to all applicable standards in the building, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, fire, and health code and bylaws. 7, water connection must meet all requirements of the DPW water division for the accessory dwelling. The sewer connection must meet all requirements of the DPW sewer division, which is requiring an $8,000 connection fee and a utility plan. 8, any lighting installed shall be downlight to not shed light on abutting properties. 9, construction work shall not begin prior to 7 a.m. weekdays and 8 a.m. on Saturdays, and shall cease no later than 7 p.m. or sunset, whichever is earlier. No construction shall take place on Sundays or legal state, federal holidays. Construction includes idling of vehicles, delivery of materials to the site, and all other construction activities. 10, runoff from the proposed accessory dwelling shall not be increased from the property. As the property is in the Water Resource Protection District, rooftop runoff must be designed to recharge the first inch of rainfall. Infiltration basins or trenches shall be constructed with a 3-foot minimum separation between the bottom of the structure and maximum groundwater elevation. An artificial system of recharge shall be required which does not degrade the groundwater as there is more 15% area for the site, more than 15% area for the site. A plan for attaining runoff requirements must be provided to the building commissioner as part of the building permit application. The detail for the pervious pavement walkway should be included on the building permit plans. 11, the lower part of the asphalt driveway shall not be removed and replaced with gravel as the site is in the water resource protection district and stabilization is important. The board supports leaving the asphalt driveway or replacing it with permeable pavers, provided a detail is provided with the building permit application. 12, erosion and sedimentation control devices shall be installed to prevent any erosion or sedimentation from leaving the site during construction. Silt socks shall be used as necessary. 13, the appearance of the accessory dwelling will be in keeping with the primary dwelling unless otherwise required by the Massachusetts Building Code, and new exterior stairs need to provide primary or secondary means of egress for the accessory dwelling shall be located on the side of the rear or the rear of the building. At least 2 private off-street parking spaces shall be available for use by the occupants of the accessory dwelling in addition to those parking spaces required for the primary dwelling. Is there a second for discussion?
Second.
Number 11.
I would suggest we change them.
Understand.
I'm saying it should read something to the effect. The lower part of the asphalt driveway is to be removed and replaced with gravel. Say at the site in the water resource protection district, set in front of the back. It shall be designed to ensure stabilization and no runoff. It shall not be changed without the approval of the board. The idea is that this has to be designed, it has to meet the runoff requirements, you can't have anything running off into the street or anything else. And that if at a later date, somebody wants to come in and pay that after the fact, they're gonna need the board to do that.
Can I repeat back what you just said? The lower part of the asphalt driveway is to be removed and replaced with gravel. Shall be designed to ensure stabilization, to ensure no runoff, and cannot be changed without permission of the board.
Very good.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? I realize my plan, I think, does say gravel on it, but I'm wondering if we can say or pervious
That's what
material.
confused me.
Yeah.
It says here that we say yes and here we say no.
If it became a porous asphalt, or if it became a paver, a pervious paver, would that be allowed, or is it strictly gravel?
I would recommend permeable, porous asphalt because it clogs up. You're better to go with a permeable paver.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you need to make a decision what you want here.
But the gravel.
I'm just not saying we have to have it
I
paid.
understand, so yeah, I just replace the word gravel with pervious material.
Yeah, we don't want gravel, which if you know, if there's a slope, it's gonna run to the street, or when they plow, it's gonna go to the street, that's a problem.
No, I don't.
Pervious surface.
Pervious paver.
Pervious paver.
Okay. Pervious paper, it is.
Second is amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Imagine that.
8:45, to continue public hearing for stormwater permit for Warrenwood Drive, lots 3, 5, 4, 7, 5, we all know that, okay. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello. Bill Armour, with the Academy of Consulting and from consulting here in Gabe, I think they've addressed some issues and
Casey to answer any questions or anything with my end.
Would you like to tell us what's going on? Would you like to tell us what's happening?
From the last hearing that we had, well, first of all, good evening. From the last hearing that we had, the comments were responded to, with the peer review engineer. We got, everything squared away with the peer review engineer. Also, last week we did provide the plan, the overall plan that shows 3 lots, in one sheet. That is more of an informational sheet that shows pretty much what we show in all the individual sheets into one combined sheet. It's the one that's actually on the easel right here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you before we get started, do we know when the permanent drainage will be installed, since we did ask for the sequence before?
The beginning of construction, the first thing that they're gonna do is set up the erosion control. And right after the start of the erosion control, they will start with the basins and continue on with all the work, keeping everything outside of those basins. There will be, prior to construction, a stormwater pollution prevention plan that will be submitted. That is required by NEPDES, because we are disturbing more than an acre. So that will be part of pre-construction submissions.
Our consulting engineer did review all 3 lots and found that all the drainage characteristics were in compliance with the DEP and stormwater management regulations and bylaw. I thought he was going to be online. Is Peter Ellison on?
I don't know who that is
Okay.
online.
Ms. Allison,
They
is
haven't
that you
even-
with the
they
phone
haven't
number?
identified themselves, they've only left the telephone number.
So I do recommend approval with your regular stormwater permit.
Oh, here's Peter, he's just calling. We're a
here
couple
he is.
minutes early, so.
What, wait, we got, hello, Mr. Ellison, we're a few minutes early. Wait for that.
There's Peter.
Do we see any,
He's online, so whenever you're ready.
Oh, hi, Mr. Ellison, do we see any siltation pumps, there was no need?
What? I don't know.
Bring the baby.
Peter, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, we can. We started a minute or 2 early, so we've had a little bit of discussion. So I think the board has some questions for you.
Okay, terrific.
So we know that all the permanent drainage is gonna be installed, we know when that's gonna happen, we have a sequence of events that's gonna happen, construction. Sequence of construction, do you know when that is, how that's gonna happen?
Do I know the schedule for construction? Is that what
Yes,
you're asking?
sequence.
I believe the applicant is probably better prepared to speak to the sequence for construction.
Okay.
The sequence of construction did not say when the permanent drainage was going to be installed.
That's what I was looking for.
It goes through, the erosion control and that kind of stuff. And so, and then, they go into foundations, but they don't actually tell you when the utilities are gonna be installed. So
That's what we need.
I've just asked for that right before a building permit, so, but just so it's clarified. But they still have to do what they need to do to make the site work in terms of whatever temporary drainage they need to do. And hopefully, it seems like with the timing, they'll probably open it up during the summertime, which will be when the groundwater is lower, which will be ideal for this site.
How's that sound?
In terms of scheduling, we don't have a date yet. That would be up to the owner At this point, the sequence, as far as the order of the operations will go, before anything, we have the stormwater pollution controls out there. And like I said, the drainage will pretty much be one of the first things, especially if you have an underground structure. And that's right next to the driveway. And the driveway pretty much will be the last thing built.
So the grading and drainage installation will be first before
Pretty
the house
much.
construction.
Yes.
Did you want Peter Allison to say it? Did you want?
Mr. Ellison, do you have anything to tell us about these 3 lots that we need to know?
Really from just kind of like from a high level, I think the board should feel comfortable that TEC performed a very thorough review. This was our 4th review that we just got through. And I can confirm that the design for all 3 of the lots does meet the stormwater standards at the state level as well as the local town of Scituate bylaw.
Thank you very much. The town council has applied to us that we do not need a modification of the subdivision, which we had thought would be needed. We have a note here about the tree line on lot 4. Karen, would you like to?
Yeah, the tree line on lot 4 has to be made to align with the erosion control. That, again, I wrote as a condition that can be applied, for, not gonna hold up the approval of the stormwater permit, which is, will have to be on the new plan, submitted later, as well as the dewatering. The dewatering detail and the O&M plan need to be made together, so that they both say the same thing. Otherwise, it's just, all the conditions I propose are your typical stormwater permit that you do for the projects in Scituate.
I'm sorry, Karen, dewatering temporary basins or wait.
Their dewatering detail talks about a truck bed. In the verbiage in the O&M plan, it talks about crushed stone. So it just needs to be made consistent, and so, they can how they choose to dewater is how they choose to dewater. I mean, hopefully this will be opened up in a drier period of the year so that there won't be so many concerns. Any types of temporary sedimentation sumps that they need so that they don't muck up the permanent drainage will also they should be doing that.
Yeah. So if you end up in a wet period, you just have to do different things.
Right.
Mr. McCoy?
No.
Ms. Burbank? Richard Trello?
I have a question.
You have a question?
There's 3 motions for approval. All 3 need to be read separately?
That's up to the board. They're substantially the same except for lot 4, that's gonna require the one separate, the plan change so that the tree line and the erosion control are equal, but it's the same thing basically 3 times, except for the different, lot 3 plans, lot 4 plans, lot 5 plans. So if you wanna basically say that,
Yeah, this is read once.
I'll read lot 4 and that'll pretty much pull it all together because that's the one that's really different, right?
yeah, it's just got one minor different
Right,
condition,
okay.
one minor
So-
different condition.
You do, I don't know if there's anyone on the public, just because
Yeah,
it's
is
a
there
public
anyone
hearing.
here?
And if you're online and you'd like to make a comment, if you're on your phone, if you want to hit *9, now would be the time to make public comment if you're interested in doing so. You say no.
All right, okay. I am.
So you're reading lot 4.
Motion for approval for lot 4, lot 5, and lot 3. But I'm going to read lot 4 in its entirety. The other 2 are basically the same. I move to approve the stormwater permit site plan for lot 4, 3, and all of those. On November, Laurelwood Drive, Scituate, Mass, dated November 9, 2022, with revisions through 2/21/23, consisting of 4 sheets in stormwater management design calculations dated November 9, 2022, with revisions through February 21, 2023, with conditions noted below. While construction shall comply with the stormwater permit site plans for Lot 4, Laurelwood Drive in Scituate, dated November 9, 2022, with revisions through 2021-23, consisting of 4 sheets, and stormwater management design calculations dated November 9, 2022, with revisions through February 23, 2023, by Darrell M. Grady PE of Grady Consulting LLC, and the operation and maintenance plans for the construction and post-construction for Laurelwood Drive, latest revision, February 21, 2023, except as they may be modified to conform to the conditions below. Any and or all owners of the property or site contractors for grading, site work, and installation of utilities, foundations, and or driveways shall be advised of this approval and these conditions. A copy of the approved plan and conditions shall be kept on site at all times during construction. 2, any plan changes or changes from the proposed materials shall be submitted to the planning office to determine changes are insignificant or require a permit modification approved by the town planner. The stormwater management system, including underground chambers and sand filters, infiltration basins, grass swales, water quality swales, grading, dwelling, and site amenity locations shall not be changed or expanded without the prior written approval of the issuing authority. Expansion includes additional paved areas. Failure to obtain written approval is a violation of the Town of Scituate general bylaw and subject to fines. 3, copies of this approval and the approved stormwater permit plan and conditions shall be provided to subsequent owners who shall be advised of the need for periodic maintenance of the stormwater system and the need to retain the grading of the lot as approved. Prior to the transfer of the property, the owner shall provide to the subsequent owner and the planning office.
I don't know, I see.
Planning office an inspection report certified by a professional engineer showing compliance with the operation and maintenance plan. Planning office must receive written notification at least 1 week prior to any change in the ownership of the property occurring during construction. 4, where this is a stormwater permit, requires approval, permitting, or licensing from any local, state, or federal agency. Such permitting or licensing is deemed a condition of the stormwater approval. All necessary permits and approvals must be received prior to commencement of construction. This includes NEPDIS permit if applicable. If NEPDIS permit is needed, it shall be provided to the planning office 2 weeks prior to construction commencing to verify it is consistent with the stormwater permit. 5, the applicant shall consent to allow members of the town and town officials from the planning board and other persons acting under planning board or its agents to enter upon lands and carry out inspections as may deem necessary. The applicant shall cooperate with the planning board and town officials and assist them in their effort to verify the layout, design, and construction work with stormwater permit are satisfactory and conform to town specifications and requirements of the board. 6, this stormwater permit must be recorded at the registry of deeds with proof furnished to the planning office prior to construction. Failure to record the stormwater permit is a violation of the permit and subject to fines included in the Town of Scituate general bylaws. 7, infiltration dry wells shall be installed to have the bottom elevation a minimum of 3 feet above seasonal high groundwater elevations. Stormwater during construction as well as after construction is not allowed to increase in rate or volume to adjust to adjacent properties, street or off-site. No sediment, including silty water, is allowed to leave the site during construction. 8, no clearing beyond the limit of work, limit of clearing, erosion control line as shown on the plan is allowed. Limit of clearing shall be staked in the field prior to construction commencing and shall be maintained throughout the construction phase. 9, the limit of work shall be revised to reflect the tree line shown on the 2/21/23 plan. No work beyond the tree line to remain is allowed. The plan shall be resubmitted to the planning office for approval prior to application for building permit. 10, the sequence of construction shall be revised to reflect when the permanent drainage features are to be installed. The plan shall be resubmitted to the planning office for approval prior to application for building permit. 11, construction shall not begin prior to 7 a.m. on weekdays and 8 a.m. on Saturdays, and shall cease no later than 7 p.m. by sunset, whichever is earlier. No construction shall take place on Sundays or legal state and/or federal holidays. Construction work includes any operation of machinery and idling of vehicles. No truck idling on the site or adjacent streets is allowed. 12, any temporary construction measures, including sediment control traps and swales, must be installed in the initial stages of construction prior to any foundation construction. All underground recharge chamber areas and infiltration areas must be fenced off during construction to prevent over compaction of the soils and minimize construction traffic over the recharge areas. 13, there shall be no flow to the subsurface systems until the tributary area is stabilized. 14, the infiltration basin and sand filters, water quality swales, and underground leaching chambers must be retained and maintained as designed, as they are components of the stormwater management system. Maintenance must be per the approved post-construction operation and maintenance plan. 15, snow is not allowed to be stored in the infiltration basin, sand filters, or any component of the stormwater system. 16, a stabilization construction entrance per the plan detail shall be installed prior to any work on the site and shall be maintained throughout construction. 17, prior to any land disturbance, erosion control shall be installed and inspected by the town planner or approved agent. At this time, the site shall also be staged to show the house and drainage improvements. All stockpiles shall be surrounded by an erosion control area. Additional erosion control such as silt fence, silt stock, and/or hay bales placed prior to a precipitation event may be needed to prevent sediment from reaching the road or adjacent properties during construction. All erosion control shall be installed per the plan and shall be maintained in good working condition throughout construction. The applicant is responsible for maintaining and managing stormwater on site throughout the construction period during the transition to fully functional operations and maintenance. Construction approval in no way relieves the applicant from its obligation to ensure stormwater does not impact the abutting properties, and the applicant shall take all necessary steps to prevent such occurrences. 18, the town planner shall be notified when installation of construction entrance and erosion control are complete. If any permit inspection is being requested, the notification shall occur 48 hours in advance of an inspection. 19, no on-street parking or loading or unloading of construction equipment or vehicles shall be permitted during construction unless a police detail is provided if warranted as determined by the police department. Noise mitigation and proper dust control shall be used. 20, all disturbed areas associated with this stormwater permit shall be loomed and seeded with 6 inches of screened clean loam. A bill of lading shall be provided to the planning office to show that the loam is clean. 21, only organic fertilizer shall be used as the lots are in the Water Resource Protection District. 22, all slopes on site shall not exceed 25% or 4:1. 23, the operation and maintenance plan during construction shall be followed as written. The dewatering detail on the plans shall be revised and approved by the planning office prior to a building permit to reflect the verbiage in the operation and maintenance plan for during construction. 24, a pre-construction conference will be required on site to verify the contractor is aware of the stormwater permits, conditions, and required inspections. Recording of the permits must occur prior to the pre-construction conference with proof of recording furnished to the planning office. 25, construction inspections will be provided as follows. A, all inspections for the town shall be performed by the town planner, a designated representative of the planning department or planning board, and by the record design and record design engineer. All inspections shall be documented with written reports that describe compliance with the approved plans and supporting application documents, construction specifications. Any variations shall be noted. B, the town planner and record design engineering firm must be notified 48 hours prior to 1, installation of construction entrance and erosion control and staking of corners of the dwelling, limit of work, driveway and the drainage improvements. 2, installation of Scituate siltation sumps, including directional swales. 3, bottom of the infiltration basin prior to backfilling. 4, bottom of the infiltration chambers. 5, installation of infiltration chambers. 6, rough grading of the site, including swales, site and driveway to verify grades are as designed, including slope and driveway grading. 7, finished grading of the infiltration chambers and basin and all stormwater management systems with the elevation submitted to the town planner and design engineer for verification. 8, inspection of the site amenities, including house, driveway, and Linden seeded areas. 9, inspection of final completion of site work, including cleanup to determine compliance with the condition prior to issuing a certificate of compliance, COC. All grass must be growing and landscaping completed. Work shall be subject to removal if necessary inspections are not requested. If the property is sold prior to completion of the work, the planning board reserves the right to inform the buyer that the stormwater management system is incomplete. Spot grades shall be performed during rough grading and finished grading to ensure any swales will drain and no standing water will be present. 26, the applicant will provide a construction and plan completion guarantee of $5,000. This will be for each lot, prior to issuance of a building permit to guarantee that the town will be notified when site inspections are required. The as-built plan will be provided and construction will be completed in accordance with the approved plans, and grass will be growing. A certification of completion must be issued prior to return of the construction and plan completion guarantees. 27, the property owner shall be responsible for the proper maintenance and operation of the stormwater control system, a best management practice inspection schedule and maintenance checklist and plan is attached and shall serve as a guide for the proper maintenance of the system, which is required in perpetuity. Number 28. Construction of a proposed stormwater management system, site utilities, site amenities, and grading shall be supervised by a registered professional engineer who shall certify to the planning board that the site was constructed according to the approved plans. The certification shall be accompanied by an as-built plan stamped by a registered surveyor and the registered professional engineer who designed the system and shall be submitted to the planning office within 10 days of completion of the work. This plan shall include the construction conditions of the stormwater management system, including top and bottom elevations, inverts, spot grades as necessary, grading, house, site amenities, and driveways. Prior to application for a certificate of occupancy, an interim as-built must be submitted to the planning office for verification that the stormwater management system and grading is following the design. The final as-builts must be submitted prior to obtaining a certificate of completion for the stormwater permits, and all work must be found in compliance with the approved permits. All grading and landscaping must be completed prior to the final as-built submittals. 29, the drainage system is not performed, if the drainage system is not performing as designed and conditioned or stormwater is observed going to abutting properties or the street, the stormwater authority can request necessary mitigation to remedy the situation at the applicant's expense. This condition applies to all construction activities and survives the issuance of a certification of completion. 30, underground irrigation systems are prohibited from connecting to the town's water distribution system or in any manner using municipal water. All irrigation systems installed must be supplied by on-site sources at the expense of the property owner. Violations of this policy shall result in a fine to the property owner with an equal fine levied on the installer of the system. 31, any condition contained herein that varies from the plan supersedes the plan where different.
Second for discussion?
All in favor?
Discussion?
A discussion.
Sorry, Sharon.
I just wrote a few notes, we can see here. So on number 10, I think what we heard was that sequence of construction will have the permanent drainage features installed prior to the house construction. Is that what I heard? So can we rewrite this to say that? The sequence of construction shall be revised to reflect that the permanent drainage feature installed prior to house construction. On probably more for you, Carol, 18 and 5B, there's a 48-hour notification. Make that like business days as opposed to clock hours. It's just whether you can, if somebody tells you on a Friday, 48 hours go by, you're not showing up on a Sunday, right?
Oh, we tell them we can't make it, I mean, you know, so all the contractors have been extremely reasonable on that.
All right, as long as you're comfortable with it. 23, that second to last sentence, instead of verbiage about requirements. And 26. Construction and planning completion guarantee. You want to say cash bond? Seems like something's missing there.
Most people give us $5,000 in cash and it gets deposited into an account.
Right, so I'm just suggesting we add the word cash or cash bond or something there. And sort of similarly at the end, will return the construction and plan and completion guarantee cash bond. Okay. 29, this is just a new terminology that came up, where it says stormwater authority. Should that be planning board or is that?
Well, technically, in this case, it is the planning board.
Right.
But
Can we just say that?
we can say, I mean, yeah.
That was it.
You all set?
Yeah. Second amendment.
Hold on, yes.
First question, how can you pour cement without idling a cement truck? Someone can tell me that. Or it's no idling trucks on site, how are you supposed to pour cement?
No, I did the hours of construction. Say that construction needs idling trucks and stuff, so you can only do that inside hours of construction. We recognize you're gonna have that truck actually for
I see what you're
construction.
saying, it says no truck idling on the site or on adjacent street is allowed, which really should say outside of the work hours, right?
No,
No,
so,
no,
it's
no.
intended to be that
Or
you,
include any operation of machinery and idling.
And I think it's
If you're
getting,
pouring cement, you're.
It's operating.
you're operating. It's intended that you're not supposed to have many trucks on an adjacent street waiting to come into the site. That's what it is. If I could change the wording, we'd be
Could we-
happy to change the wording.
Could we clarify that is outside of the site, because that says that's within the site?
Would you like me to say no truck idling on adjacent streets is allowed?
Yeah.
And take off on the site?
Sure, I just wanna make sure that the cement guy can pour cement, that's all.
second is amended.
Second.
Favor.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
We're done. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wasn't as arduous as you thought, was it?
No, just out of curiosity, why do you record the permits at the registry?
So that people actually do the
Or
work.
what you're supposed to
Yeah,
do.
that's not in the regulations, correct?
No, I don't believe it.
It's not, so the point is, if you're gonna require that, it should be in the regulation, because there's a number of reasons, because the language of this is land court, and a lot of this isn't, but in a lot of cases, you're not gonna be able to record it. So I'm just saying, so you don't have technical faults, that's all. Okay.
We'll take that under advisement.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
We are now. Old business, new business, et cetera, at 9:30, we're 15 minutes ahead of schedule. So we have to approve minutes. What? I move to approve the minutes, meeting minutes, March 9th, 2023.
Second.
Second.
Favor.
I move to approve the requisition of $490 to Chessie Consulting for peer review services for 7 New Driftway, for $8,400 to Chessie Consulting for peer review services for 61 New Driftway, for $2,590 to Chessie Consulting for peer review services for 33 New Driftway, 7 McDonald, for $2,310 to Horsley Witten for peer review services at 16 Crescent Avenue, for $525 to Karen Straley for return of unexpected peer review funds for 31 Allen Place.
All in favor? Moving right along.
Liaison reports. I went to CPC the other night. And is his name Mark Novak? Yes. Presented a plan for 5 tennis courts up at the high school. It was quite impressive. And we're looking at $2 million.
Where are they going?
They're taking the 4 existing courts out and they're expanding an existing around each of the hill and putting up whatever. They'll have to come and see us for this one.
The roller rink was over there or something.
Oh, it's all in a row.
Yeah.
It's all there. And so 2 million, so they have to go before the selectmen advisory and
So
whatnot.
why are they getting rid of the courts that they have?
Because they are falling apart, they're cracked.
Up here at the high school.
They need
Part of
5, they need 5
The MIA.
to compete in, you have to have 5 courts.
And they were told, when the construction was going forward for the, ball fields and what have you, behind high school, to put the tennis courts in abeyance until such time, and then we move forward with it.
So the real question is, what's happening to the 5 courts at the middle school, at Gates?
They're gonna turn into pickleball.
No, they're not.
They're not gonna restart them for pickleball?
Oh, stop.
They're a little bit strange for
was gonna say, there might be a riot.
So I think that the underlying,
No.
the underlying
Well,
question.
you want
People
everybody
get
else
serious
knows
about it.
you're the only one that does that, you guys, you must be the only people in
I
Situate that
must
don't
be,
have.
I know, that's what I'm saying,
Because
yeah.
everybody
But the
else does.
underlying question to that is, you
Yeah,
need to kind of get into the master plan as to what is the plan for the tennis courts at the junior high school, which, mark my words, gonna turn into parking. Be careful.
Careful what you wish for. Okay, so there was that, and then there was some discussion over the 300,000 that was approved for Pier 44, and the advisory board voted unanimously against.
Yeah.
And they were all, yeah,
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat what you said, the whole thing?
yes. The $300,000 that CPC approved for design and engineering of Pier 44. The advisory board unanimously turned it down, which is almost unheard of, but they did. So they were there, two of them, Jenny Gilmore and another woman were there. And somehow it got caught up with parking. It was all about parking. And nobody's figured out parking yet, and nobody's decided if there's gonna be a pavilion. They understand that it's going to take a while to get permits. This is really just to go forward with engineering and design of the property. That's all it is. And I'm not sure that the advisory board fully understood.
Yeah, why spend that money if nobody's got an eye towards how the parking's getting resolved, right? I mean,
And you
it's
have,
like, why are you gonna do that?
How much have we already spent? 100,000.
all right, money has been, there was $100,000 grant from MAPC. Plus whatever monies they have spent to date have come from the MBTA mitigation money on their property. And contrary to what I was told, it will cost 100 to 200,000 to take that building down. Which is basically what people have wanted for a long time.
Is there any way to like buy ourselves out of this, Faustian deal that we have with the MBTA on that property
We
and
would
then
have-
sell the property?
No, do you have $3 million?
I mean, I gotta check.
It's government, it's still governed by chapter 91. You still don't have
We have to go to
carte
town
blanche
meeting.
for it.
Right, and it's a town meeting vote.
Right,
Yeah.
but the thing is, we took $3 million that was supposed to purchase open space and purchase this building to end the lawsuit. That's what this is all about, and it's been 12 years putzing around with it.
So the interesting thing is, I went to both of those meetings. It's held on a Tuesday in the morning and the afternoon. A young man from CPC was in the evening, Skylar, is that his name?
Yes, Skyward Chick.
And said, they're building a park, they're not building a parking lot, so they need to be clear on that.
Yeah.
I did listen to advisory about what they thought. I think they're very clear on that, and I think that they don't want to go forward when nobody really has a real plan. And I know they need this $300,000 to have a real plan. But it's kind of like, I don't know,
It's the chicken and the egg.
yeah, it's just kind of like.
Well, if you spend $300,000, you have to give somebody direction as to what's being.
Yeah, right.
Or you're gonna spend $300,000 and say, okay, 12 options, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what they're planning.
So,
If it's not planned to have people who can drive there, park there, then there's no parking issue, right?
Yeah, and that's what they're trying to figure out.
it's supposed to be walkable, it's supposed to be, they have these plans. Karen, have you been involved with this at all?
I've been to a couple meetings.
And what is your take on it?
They want a pavilion for 100 people, they want some parking, they really don't know. I mean, chapter 91, of course, is involved, they want to have some type of pier go into the water.
So privately owned.
It seems that, the design is very much up in the air. There's contrast between the complex amenities that people want and just taking down the building, putting some nice grassed areas, having some parking. And there's a big discrepancy between those two.
Yes.
They're just trying to figure it out.
That's
And
what three
why do
members.
they want parking there?
Well, to have
It's
some,
not just gonna be a walkable park from town.
they're envisioning food trucks and that kind of stuff, and
So
so.
we're envisioning a pavilion with 100 people.
That's probably not gonna happen.
No, I think that we're just waiting for.
They're talking about a small amount of parking,
Yeah.
anywhere from, what we've seen on potential plans is 5 to maybe 15 spaces, because some people might go to this park, park there, walk out to the lighthouse, walk back, or there, and then walk, into the downtown, so probably some parking
It'll
is
never work.
needed.
It'll never work. 5 spaces.
No.
Well, and so
I
that's
mean,
That's partly the discussion.
you're better off either no parking or having a real parking plan than saying, oh, I'm gonna have 5 parking spaces there, because those will be gone in an instant. Right?
Well, and so that's why a lot of people thought the plan with the 5 didn't work, they're
Yeah.
leaning more towards the 10 to the 15.
Yeah.
And so,
And you start
because,
to carve into the park space.
right, so
It's very up in the air.
I think they want to do some type of presentation, I believe, at town meeting.
I mean, no, they're talking, isn't there like, I don't know, maybe I've heard some people talking about maybe moving, like having a new sites for a new town hall, that would be.
No, that's going to the gates. You
Oh.
can't put that on the water,
It
while
floods.
it's flooding.
I could raise it,
So the flood, so the park would take into account flooding and all that stuff to provide some mitigation for that kind of stuff.
And so one of the first issues was to have a building there, but it would have to be 18 feet in the air. That was their first issue. That's why they got rid of the building, because the walkway would be out to the lighthouse, I think the ramp, to try to get up there for 18 accessibility. They have to push. Yeah.
It's not gonna be a-
So that's what's what.
But
That's what's what. And then you were telling me about Mordecai Lincoln and the parking.
Yeah.
That's,
That's a rush to buy stuff without a really thoughtful plan. There's no place really to park, and that's such a bad place to keep. Not that it's not a beautiful piece of property, but.
actually, there is for 15 cars.
Yeah, which is a lot.
All right, that's all I have to report.
I listened to zoning the other night. The indomitable chair has stepped down, and the other members of zoning actually speak. It's really amazing to watch. They were very, had a lot to say about a new property on Chief Justice Cushing. The adjacent property had been clear cut, lots of issues with conservation. They absolutely came right out and said, we're never gonna allow this again, we really need to watch this out. It was nice to hear something that definitive. They're going ahead with Old Oak and Bucket, their next meeting is like in April, end of April. They're steamrolling that ahead, which we don't have much to say about that. And a really interesting discussion, if you could listen to it, is the Board of Selectmen the other night for sidewalk seating for open-air restaurants. And how one person may get more than anybody else, so.
Right, including taking up 3 or 4 parking spaces on Front Street with everybody screaming that there's not enough parking on Front Street.
So that was an interesting discussion, so that, it can't go until the next meeting. They approved Hibernian Salt Society,
Reba?
Oro, and then, but put, the galley on the back burner till the next meeting. They didn't know what to do with the, parking, and that's about it. Get ready for town meeting.
When is town meeting?
April 10th.
April 10th. So we don't meet again before town meeting, so you have to decide who's going to present the 2 articles at town meeting. We have the common driveways and we have the parking.
I'll be on the west coast. I won't be there.
And we have a chance, I'll be in the hospital. So,
I'll take care of it, Karen.
so, we have 2 of them. One, would you like to read one? You have to read one?
Sure.
Is that okay?
I just go and read the warrant. report?
Yeah.
No, we'll give you
Okay.
we'll give you a walkthrough type bullet points of what you need to say.
They can set up a teleprompter.
But it's
Yeah, so I can't just free verse?
you're gonna summarize what it does.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's really very simple, both changes to the common driveway and the parking are very simple. It's supported by everybody and, you know, you'll also be reading the report that we have to give to town meeting as well. So,
I don't have my agenda, so.
so we found out late yesterday afternoon that our MBTA compliance action plan was approved.
Excellent.
So that is a very good thing.
Thank you.
We also have applied for technical assistance. Patty and I, technical assistance, we get to choose between 3 consultants. I picked one and hopefully the next step is they contact us.
Is there any like financial assistance and all that?
Yeah, it's free.
No, I mean,
Not
beyond
yet.
that,
Not yet.
for infrastructure support and stuff like that.
Well, we are applying, I'm digressing a little, we are applying for a Mass Works grant. That's gonna be done, I think the application deadline is in May. We have support letters from Walter Sullivan on behalf of 7 New Driftway, Mr. Ornberger on behalf of 33 New Driftway, and we would be getting one on behalf of 61 New Driftway because they want you to leverage a project against it. And we have a support letter from our Patrick Kearney and Patrick O'Connor. So
And who's the administrator of that program? Is
I
that
don't-
DOT?
I don't remember on Mass
Yeah.
Works. So we are working, you know, Corey's putting the application together.
What's it for?
What? I&I. Which is important to all these projects that we're looking at right now.
Scituate.
So that's a good thing.
Infiltration and intake.
Infiltration.
So we won't be able to have any recommendations to talk about for a little bit yet of where we should go for the MBTA action plan. I've been sending you some articles on that, who seem to highlight some of the concerns that we have. Patty and I went to a conference last Saturday, and one of the questions I asked was, is there any leeway on the number? You know, if you're 4 short or 10 short, and the answer is no. Absolutely.
Resoundingly no. To every single question in the room was no.
And then we asked the question, is there gonna be any thought to changing the requirement of that required mixed use can't count? Nope.
That's so silly.
So,
I'll put this technical assistant to help us.
Does that, going back to the article that you sent out, that was from the Patriot Ledger, so mixed use buildings, like the one that, the New Driftway that we were just looking at today, that won't count towards.
our unit capacity, no. That district, we cannot have that district count. The NDTV district right now is not in our plan to count because it has a pedestrian frontage zone, so therefore it can't count because it has required mixed use.
So we think it might be a language issue?
Right, it's been suggested to us that maybe we could tweak something in the language, and that's why we had a conversation with Mass Housing Partnership this week, and they suggested apply for technical assistance. So we applied for technical assistance, and we're gonna go from there.
Housing and economic development, it's Mass.
Okay.
So-
Part of it, I think, is a language issue, or what is required, is not required, or you need a special permit. I said to Karen, we had this discussion that you look at it so long, you can't see the forest for the trees, so maybe somebody's committed to say, oh, no, we just take out that sentence, or that's,
But yeah,
well,
if we
instead of
took
the
out the,
end,
if
it
we
should
took out
be.
the required, like the required language, could we then count the existing mixed use towards?
We don't know.
It's unit capacity, so it would come up with a capacity of housing units for the acreage. It's not counting certain stuff, but, you know, that, the capacity is what we're after.
So we think it might be an and, it should be or, whether it should be.
Wait, the thing with the Patriot Ledger article, the first half of it sounded, oh gee, mixed use.
Yeah.
And then you get to the second part of it,
I got
no.
confused.
No, no, and no.
So it's a work in progress. Hopefully, we will know where we are, sometime in early May, and we can have a good discussion with the board then. Because if you think about it, time is getting short in order to figure out what we have to do and to develop, zoning for, any changes in zoning for next spring town meetings. We're not gonna, we can't make fall.
And the lady told me to read this book, so I had homework to do, she asked me to read this book before.
Did she give it to you?
So I bought it.
So,
We'll need a briefing on it.
Absolutely.
Synopsis.
Oh, look, I love homework, if you know.
Central Field construction is gonna be starting, pre-construction is on Monday. Residential compound, Verizon's been working out there, so hopefully after Verizon gets done, National Grid will, well, whoever's supposed to, I get different reports on who's supposed to remove the pole, will
This our country way.
will remove the pole, and then the paving can be done and Country Way can be fixed.
These poles belong to the power utility, not the communications utility.
Yeah.
Right. But I've heard different things, so, you know. We have several stormwater permits under construction, we have, you know, multiple stuff under construction, and it's going. Some of it better than others, so that's all I'm gonna say.
I do want to say something if anybody's listening. We've talked a lot about this among all of us, that everybody keeps asking for forgiveness instead of permission. Have you noticed in the last decision that we read, it was pretty specific that we could have stuff taken out? If people do not follow the decision, it is a legally binding agreement. And if they don't do it, I encourage the town planner to issue either citations or cease and desist. People need to pay attention that we really mean what we say. And the only way we get their attention is to issue stop work order, and that's it. So if you go out, it just happened last week, you know, somebody was inspecting something, didn't tell the town, they went ahead, that is unacceptable. We need to stop that kind of stuff, because every time they do it, what the hell, they're not gonna come out. So we really, these projects are getting more and more convoluted, and people are just ignoring what has to happen. And there's a process for a reason, and if we have to follow their process, they really need to follow our process. We go through hoops to try to accommodate these people, and they don't care what we ask them to do. They need to do a little more accommodating for us, that's my personal opinion, and
You talking about the state?
no, I'm telling you about the town.
Oh,
So when we write a decision, you know, we don't write the 30-page decisions for them to just say, I don't really wanna call the town, like I'm not doing this. You need to do that, that is a legally binding document. So, you know, for somebody to say to me, oh, you know, they're gonna come back and do that, no, I don't. And they're probably not. So I think that we're gonna encourage Karen to use the biggest tool in our toolbox that we can, and if that's a cease and desist, and if that's the way to get their attention, then that's what we're gonna have to do.
That's how we got Joel's attention.
That is how that works.
That's the only way we got their attention.
And there are a few other characters around here that need some attention.
So that's one demo letter, so.
Yeah.
The next meeting, April 13th, we were thinking of canceling that meeting because town meeting's on Monday night and, you know, you guys are all, most of you are gonna be there at town meeting, so does anybody have a problem with canceling that meeting? We've already asked for an extension on an A&R and some other stuff that you're gonna have a hefty meeting on the 27th of April, but, you know.
So we can rest up for a whole month.
Right, rest up for a whole month.
What about, has everybody taken the ethics test?
Yes, almost done.
Almost set.
I'll get to it eventually.
I did it.
No, it's due tomorrow. That's what I was doing before.
Isn't it due tomorrow?
The 24th.
It's
Due
due tomorrow.
Don't be on that.
Yes, I'll get to it tomorrow.
You have to do it either early in the morning or
Late at
after
night.
5 o'clock because it's too jammed with people.
Yeah,
Well,
it takes like,
you're gonna have to come and arrest me then if I miss.
2 hours out of my life I'll never get back. So. Oh well.
Anything else?
you know, entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.